It received two Teen Choice Award nominations, so some
Oh,
What?
buzz, some buzz.
Some award
For
show
what?
buzz.
For what categories?
Best lip lock.
No. What kiss in that movie could have possibly been nominated as best lip lock?
The end when they pull out from the shot and they're kissing in front of an Albon Pond sandwich shop. The most romantic spot in New York City.
Ah,
French, French.
yeah, I've seen parents kiss their children with more passion than the kisses in this movie. Okay.
Fantasy, welcome back to Not My Fantasy, the show where we talk about fantasy films and the lore that inspired them. I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah. It's 2025. We're about to enter a new Trump era. And
We're
this was the
starting
movie
a
that we
season.
started with.
Yeah, I think it fits the vibe of the year.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
and
Yeah.
just so we don't have a conversation while the third person in the Zoom call has to stare ahead.
Yeah.
We have a prominent voice in the Vanessa Hudgens community. Tori Coyne is back.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
everyone. Thank you so much for having me
I
back.
mean, it's been about a year since your last Vanessa Hudgens rant on this podcast. So we're happy to have you back. I feel like it now needs to be an anniversary.
I mean, unfortunately, she has a lot of films, so we could keep doing this.
We could.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just keeps going. I mean, she really has Netflix in a chokehold with that
Yeah,
universe. So,
The Vanessa
yeah,
verse. And shout out to Kayla who could not make it. She was supposed to be the pro Vanessa voice.
yeah.
She had some car issues, but she's with us in spirit.
Yeah.
She had, I will point out the moment that she texted me about.
okay, great.
Hannah, any New Year's holiday updates? Anything happen?
I went to Florida to visit family. Then I went to Ohio to visit family. And I felt like I didn't have enough time off, even though I did have a full 2 weeks off from work. Thank you very
It's
much to my
never
work.
enough. Yeah.
It was not enough. And I think it's because on those breaks, I like to sit around the house and do nothing. But
Mm,
most of my time was travel or socializing. And I
yeah.
didn't, not that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it, but I do like not doing stuff more.
You need a
Yeah.
balance. You need a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was me. Got a lot of stuff. Um, a lot of great stuff that I wanted to, like some books. I got a little carrying case for my sewing machine, so it's not just sitting out on our
Ooh.
dining room table. Yeah, I'm trying to get my life together. Also got this wonderful little puzzle table that we have on our coffee
Ooh, a
table. So
puzzle
now it's
table.
and now it's a
Mm.
new extension of our coffee table, which is great. So we can sit here, watch movie, and do puzzle. That's what we did last night.
Ooh. Does it
It
have
was
little
a
drawers?
it does little drawers,
Mm.
and I have this little mat that goes over top of it so that the cats can't like steal the pieces.
Oh, that's good.
It was a
Important.
welcome distraction when watching the movie that we're about to talk about. So,
Yeah.
What do you
I
mean you didn't stay focused and take notes?
no, 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 no. In fact, it was very hard to focus. So hard to focus, I did say, Cullen, this movie is unwatchable.
yes, you were texting me. Yeah, I had a busy holiday season. I went to Ireland.
Wow.
Saw, some folklore, Glendalough.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I guess I should mention I got a wonderful gift, some little Oscar Wilde book of some stories from
yeah,
a one Mr. Cullen Callaghan.
yeah. I found it for
That's
like a
gorgeous.
few euros in like the oldest market in Dublin.
Amazing.
Yeah, I saw the Cahulan stuff named after him, so I had to see that. We'll talk about that lore someday. There's just not a great film adaptation for it. And saw a castle all that stuff, I pretended it was my house that I inherited, and someone was like, "Wait, did you have like an uncle that passed away?" And I'm like, if I was in the Vanessa verse, yes,
Yes.
that would be my story. But yeah, it was a really cool trip. We saw in the castle, we saw a bolt hole, which is, believe it or not, not an event at your local leather bar. It is where uh they would have priests hide when the British government came to, and like they were like a wealthy family with this castle, but they were like closet Catholics.
Mm.
So you had like a place for the priests to sneak away. So that is that. I saw Ireland. I had a great Christmas. I got a beautiful Wicked Friendship bracelet from a co-host
Mm.
here. I'm not wearing it, Hannah. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was like, I'm gonna wear mine just in case because I'm glad that you mentioned it.
As I mentioned it, I
Yeah.
was like, I should have put it on. It's on my bedside table.
It's
Uh,
early for you, so
yeah. I also got a Sleeping Beauty planner. Let's see. It's bending into the castle,
I saw it
but
in
yeah.
person. It is gorgeous.
yeah. And I got the
Mhm.
stickers, so I'm trying to be organized, like Hannah. That's my goal. And then I got a sweater from Rafa that I need to wear because it's like very magical. So I'm gonna wear
Mm.
that for one of our other episodes. I just wanted to wear my rose shirt for our
Obviously.
return to Beauty and the Beast. Because
Hmm.
welcome back to Supernatural Romance Month.
Second annual.
Second annual. I'm sure there'll be a third. I love this series.
It's such a good series. Not to spoil a future episode for this month because we also don't know what the order of these episodes is going to be now that we don't
Mhm.
have to come out in a specific order, which is nice. I am almost done with one Twilight New Moon audiobook.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So potentially that is on the docket. God, I hope so. If it doesn't make the docket, what a waste of
What a
time.
waste of
Is this
time.
is this a first read for you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Did not ever get into those books.
Wow.
You read the
Um,
first
Okay.
one before, right? Before we read
I
it
had
for the last season?
I had gotten about about two chapters until Edward shows up, and then I'm like, ugh, and I got rid of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know what's funny? I did text you, Cullen. I was like, I think I'm enjoying this book, like in the same way I enjoy the movies. It's like, oh, this is silly, but I'm invested enough, and it's fun to see the differences between the book and the movie. But then I realized, oh, this is a lot of Jacob. That's why I'm like, oh, this is like
Yeah.
somewhat I can stand it. Fucking Edward showed back up. I'm like, God damn it. So
Yeah.
that's a little context for a future episode.
I was just at LA Public Library and I went specifically to get Maria Tatar's, let me put the title in, Beauty and the Beast, Classic Tales from Animal Bride about animal brides and grooms from around the world. Specifically picked that book up, got it, and then got to survey all these other books, proceeded to forget the one book I came to downtown Los Angeles Central Library for.
Yeah,
But I got a ton of research books, and then I just ended up buying the book online so I could like
keep
read
it.
read the info because it was for this week. I'm like, this was the one, this is the one I needed. But I got all these books on vampires and werewolves.
Nice.
Ooh.
Wow. We're going to the library. We're researching more than Bella did about vampires in the first
Yeah.
movie.
And I got another Maria Tatar book, another window into what's to come about the history of Snow White tales.
Ooh,
Mm.
wow.
So we have quite an exciting, very goth year ahead of us.
Yeah.
Uh, and what a movie to start it with. We're talking about Beastly 2011, starring Alex Bedford and Vanessa Hudgens.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I'm just going to start with let's take a look at everyone's backgrounds today, right? Like, obviously, Tori's on point, homemade collage, right?
Yeah. I've
Uh-huh.
been
Homemade.
saving it since 2011.
Love that. It was formerly on your Tumblr.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
And my MySpace.
your MySpace. I mean, it totally makes sense, right? Cullen's got his, Beauty and the Beast castle background, right?
In the ballroom
Why am I in dirt? And I'll tell you.
because of the
I
greenhouse.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm in dirt because I'm reporting live from my grave because this movie was so bad it killed me.
uh,
Yeah.
May she rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I had not seen this movie before. I'd only seen the Jenny
Oh.
Nicholson YouTube video called Nobody on
No.
the Planet Remembers Beastly.
What an accurate title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recommend it. We're not gonna get into the Wii game here, but she has some great content on the Beastly Wii game. So,
Hold on. That exists? Okay.
yeah.
Didn't know that this movie went so hard it got a game. I didn't realize. Did it do well at the box office?
Enough, but not, I think, to sell the amount of merch that was made. I think they were expecting this to be
Okay,
the next Twilight. And that's
Mhm.
often whenever that
definitely.
that never happened, when it's like we're gonna make the next, you know, thing. It's like Divergent and Hunger Games, the classic.
Right.
Yeah.
hmm Totally. Which
Two
this
sides
did
of the
also
same
give me
coin.
big Divergent energy with all of his
Yeah.
tattoos.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, he
Uh-huh.
was
Yeah.
what was it? Erudite Avignation Dauntless.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dauntless.
Dauntless.
I love how you had to
hmm
go through them because you know them. That's
I
crazy.
saw that movie once at a college sleepover. We like put all our mattresses in the lounge of the dorm room, and then
Yeah.
everyone else fell asleep, and then I was awake finishing the
Naturally.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Lyle and I actually hate watched those movies recently. And what's really interesting is the last one ends on like a weird note. And then I was
Well, they
like,
Yeah.
didn't
oh,
finish making them.
there was supposed to be another one. I was like, oh,
Didn't
yeah.
they
So
finish with a
I
made
read
for
all the
TV?
books.
Oh,
Oh,
you read
did
all
they
the
do a
book.
make for TV?
I thought so on like ABC Family or something.
Well,
Oh,
I
I
got
don't
duped
maybe.
into reading all the books, and I
Mm.
didn't realize the entire time that one, it was written by a girl, either she was like a senior in a high school or like in college, and it was like her exploring like her attachment to Christianity.
That actually
And
makes
Oh.
then
it sound better, though.
and then
Like that's more
spoiler alert,
interesting.
she just dies at the end and goes to heaven. That's
Mm.
the whole, there's
Mm.
nothing's really learned or gained. She just dies and she gets to go to
Fascinating.
heaven and be like reunited with all of her loved ones.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating, and it's also a great commentary on with like dystopia revolution stories that I don't think there's ever really been a government in the history of the world I would describe as good,
Right.
right? And so like
Yeah.
that's the thing is like at the end of the day, you do have to rebel against corrupt systems, but what really is your end result?
I know.
Mm.
And you know what else was extremely corrupt? The school government in this movie Beastly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, let's talk about
Yeah.
Beastly. Let's talk about. So you had both seen it before?
Yeah.
I believe I had. I will say I told Cullen this before when he asked me if I wanted to come on and talk about Beastly. I was like, that is a movie that I will forever confuse with both Beautiful Creatures and Immortal Instruments. Like they all came
Yes.
out at the same time.
Thank you.
That I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I could have also seen one of those other two movies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And rewatching it, it like I had definitely things were coming back to me, but I was not expecting where it was going.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no. Uh that's I have nothing to say. That's exactly how I feel. Because we did Beautiful Creatures last year during Supernatural
Yeah.
Mhm.
Romance Month, and I was
With
like,
Kayla.
yes, with Kayla, and I was like, wait, I thought this was the one with Vanessa Hudgens. No, got it. They have similar aesthetics.
hmm hmm
Um,
But Beautiful Creatures, I would say, has chemistry.
yeah.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
these two people, if you told me that they filmed in front of green screens the entire movie and never once met one another, I would believe you. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be
exactly.
hard to
Marvel
convince me.
style.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
filmed
Yeah.
Marvel style. He filmed in the UK, she filmed in Atlanta, green screen, blue
Yeah.
screen situation. Yes,
They
that's
met
how it
at the
happened.
premiere. Yeah.
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 And I know in Night Before Christmas we felt that Sir Cole was carrying the chemistry, but Vanessa had like good chemistry with him. Like I feel like if she has a good chemistry partner, she can reflect back.
But she's not going to be proactive.
She's not going to be the source of the chemistry, but like
Yeah.
she's not going to drag down another like a more chemistry filled partner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, okay, should we, is this where we reclip Tori's beef with Vanessa Hudgens?
I mean, we can reclip it, or if you would like to dig
Retell,
back
whichever
into
you
it,
prefer.
I'm happy to retell.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many years ago it was at this point. It's still just burned into, my veins. But I used to live in Los Feliz, as did Vanessa Hudgens. We've both since moved on from the neighborhood. But, if you can remember a time before COVID when she was deep in her relationship with Austin Butler, she was still friends with Ashley Tisdale at the time. They have had a falling out since, and
Wow.
I take Ashley's side. Um, they would be at this restaurant all the time, almost every weekend, as would I and my friends. We would see them a lot. Vanessa would act as though like she was kind of, like how she was like the queen of Coachella. Like she sort of took that energy with her into the restaurant as well. She would always make a big deal about showing up. She would be kissing all the waiters on the cheek and saying hi. Like she really wanted you to know that she was a regular there.
Yeah.
That was the performance. They would always hold up at this little table in the back with all of their dogs. It was a whole thing. And one time I was there with a friend who I think I admitted on the last time I was here, admittedly an annoying person, love her to death, can be annoying. And she made us move tables about 3 times. And we looked up to see Vanessa Hudgens and her, at the time, boyfriend, Austin Butler, mocking us for moving tables multiple times. And it was in that moment that I decided she was my arch nemesis. And I've
Mm.
never forgiven her from that moment. And here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gee, what was the phrase? What are they going to do? Move tables again?
Yeah, I think that's actually exactly what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's also spend another 20 minutes like we did last time being like, that's not even funny. Okay. Like, it's
Yeah.
not. So yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
get it. Same. I feel the same way. I support you. I take your side,
Thank
obviously.
you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. We are selling merch after.
Yeah. So yeah, Tori and Vanessa go way back. So Beastly, 2011, heyday of the paranormal romance era. Wikipedia calls it American romantic fantasy drama film.
Mm,
Lots of things, which,
Yeah.
it's based
So the only thing that wasn't listed was comedy, and for good reason.
for
Nothing
good.
about this movie is funny, not even the
no.
jokes.
No.
Mm-mm.
It is loosely based on Alex Finn's 2007 novel of the same name, which
Loose.
as I said in the email, I'm not going to read it. It's not, we're not, the one thing is there's a chat room element that was removed where he chats with other creatures like the Frog Prince or the Little Mermaid.
No.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I
I don't
think
like
I
that at
heard
all.
another podcaster talking about it and be like, well, how does the mermaid have a laptop? And yeah. Um, it's a retelling of the classic fairy tale Beauty and the Beast set in New York City, written and directed by Daniel Barnes. Stars Vanessa Hudgens, Alex Pettyfer, Mary-Kate Olsen,
Mm.
Peter Krause, Lisa Gay Hamilton, and Neil Patrick Harris. It has a budget of 17 million and made 43 million.
Mm.
So it
Okay.
didn't make money.
Modest.
It's
I mean, I feel like
released
that's definitely a 2024, 2025 success, but I feel like in 2011, that was not a good
Yeah.
box office.
Especially for what they were trying to achieve.
with a Wii
Yeah,
game and all the merch. Yeah.
right.
Uh, the release date was moved several times to not split the Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens fandom because of the movie Charlie St. Cloud, which was coming
Mm.
Uh,
out. And then as they moved it, it was then after Alex Pettyfer's premiere in I Am Number Four, and then Vanessa Hudgens' Sucker Punch was coming out. And so eventually it just got moved to March.
mm,
So
So was Vanessa Hudgens and Zac Efron together at this time?
yes.
This was
yeah.
sort of toward the end.
Yeah. Is this when that sneaker some music video with Zac Efron in it or at like a bowling alley?
Oh, I don't know.
This is when she was like trying to shed the Disney girl energy. Um,
Mm.
yeah. Uh,
Had they made all of the High School Musical films at this point?
I think they would have been, yeah, I think three would
yeah.
have been out maybe a year or two at least. Because I think I
Okay.
was 2009 when that came
Yeah,
out, I
because I
think.
feel like High School Musical was like middle school and it was like prepping America for Glee.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that's kind of like mentally in the timeline.
That's really interesting. I mean, that's always a good sign when they have to move the movie a couple times too.
Yeah.
So
It received two Teen Choice Award nominations, so some
Oh,
what?
buzz, some buzz. All
Somehow
right.
some award
for
show
what?
buzz.
For what
Buzz.
categories?
Uh,
Best
best
hissy fit?
best lip lock. It was
No,
nominated, but for
Nominated.
Alex Pettyfer and Vanessa Hudgens, but it won for breakout actor Alex Pettyfer.
it won.
Yeah.
That's
R.I.P. to
um
the Teen Choice Awards. What
W-
interesting takes.
What kiss in that movie could have possibly been nominated as best
the
lip
end when
lock?
when they they pull out from the shot and they're kissing in front of an Albon Pond sandwich shop.
Yeah.
The
Ah,
most romantic spot in New York City.
French. French.
yeah, I've seen parents kiss their children with more passion than the kisses in this movie. Okay.
Who Tom Brady?
Yeah, Tom
Yes.
Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's
I do.
okay. You know what? I think the Teen Choice Awards was already on the outs in 2011
Yeah.
based on these
I
decisions.
do think they functioned similarly to the Fantasy Choice Awards, where sometimes
Ah,
like movies needed a nomination, and so it was like this is the best thing, this is the best category to fit it in. Was it gonna
right.
win? No, but like, what else are we gonna nominate Ruby Gillman for? Like,
Right.
uh,
Hmm.
I think my thing is this. We talked a lot. I re-listened to some of our older Beauty and the Beast episodes of the history of the Beauty and the Beast has with the girls and the gays. Like a lot of female authors, a lot of gay
Mm,
directors, like lyricists. And I think this movie's just too straight. And that's maybe why it's the story's flopping.
I mean, this
Um,
movie
mm,
is just toxic masculinity throwing up all over itself.
right. And also, like, it should be so camp based off of Mary-Kate Olsen's character and
Oh,
Mary-Kate
yeah.
yeah.
Olsen's character alone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't giving camp, and that really upset me.
Same.
Even compared to like Twilight with
Right.
we're making Italiano for you, climb on Spider Monkey.
There definitely were like vibes about this though. I don't know. I remember writing in my took a note and I was like, why are they trying to make this into like an art film? Like, did you notice the way that they were like moving the camera at certain points? And it was giving like they were trying to achieve what like the first Twilight movie
Mm,
achieved, but it was like a bit too on the nose.
yeah. Heavy-handed for sure.
I did
Yeah.
like there was a shot of the seasons passing that I actually
Yeah.
really liked. I was like, that's cool. Um,
When they're sitting in the
yeah.
greenhouse reading a single thing and then time passing,
I
Yeah,
was
was it very
confused.
deeply confusing for you?
I admittedly was very confused
Is this the
during
only
that
thing they're
scene.
learning?
I thought it was
They're
just like,
a deep dive on this poem. Got it.
I thought
It's
it
not
was
even a very
like
long poem.
An entire seminar. Could you imagine?
I was
Crazy.
assuming they were studying other things. It was an artistic representation.
See,
Um,
that's where they went wrong. Any sort of art or representations, no, everything was just so on the nose. You're like,
yeah.
you can't add that too.
So
I know.
we've talked about Beauty and the Beast before. We've had three Beauty and the Beast episodes. Back in the first like run of the podcast, we had La Belle and La Bête, the Jean Cocteau 1946 film. We had Disney's animated 1991 and Disney's live action Assault Against Me 2017. And so we told a lot of variations of Beauty and the Beast, and so this is both a sum up and deep dive that we're going to do for our lore today, kind of about the concept of Beauty and the Beast, because I think it's very relevant to why to this movie as an adaptation. Because even though it's based on a novel, like it's really so coming from that story and
Mm-hmm.
why I think a lot of the story elements, regardless of like chemistry, artistic choices, like why the story hits the way it does, is because of the pitfalls you can run into with adapting this particular story. I think people can view fairy tales as interchangeable, and there's each one comes with its own set of things you need to think about. Why was this not a Cinderella story with Hilary Duff? We're going to be talking about that.
Mm.
Um, so yes, and I did some research. in the Maria Tatar book and some phylogenetic research. I read parts of an article about that, so the parts I could understand. Um, so Hannah, do you remember the ATU?
Yeah, I do. Something Thompson Uther. What's the first word?
Arne Thompson
Ar.
Uther. So the categorization taxonomy of fairy tales. And so in the HU Tales of like category Tales of Magic, category supernatural or enchanted wife, parentheses, husband or other relative. So these are story types 400 to 459. So like a type is like they kind of like look at the tropes. Sometimes they call them memes. That is like a folklore term, like the tropes, the elements, the
Wow.
like story beats, and they're kind of like these stories all have similar beats that kind of go under this category, and it's not a perfectly neat category, but when we say like variants of Beauty and the Beast, we're talking about like if Beauty and the Beast is a type, similar stories, or like when we did the Cinderella series and we hit all those different versions of Cinderella that were like you're like you look at them all, you're like that's Cinderella, but sometimes she does a murder, sometimes there's birds, sometimes there's a godmother, they're all different. Um, so uh this kind of series of tales, kind of like the scope, it starts with actually animal brides. Uh there's type 400 is man on quest for lost wife, and then 402 is animal bride. And so this kind of encompasses a lot of stories with like swan maidens or like
Mm.
mermaids, selkies, which often involves husbands who like stole this kind of like magical transforming garment to like make their wife submit to them, this magical creature submit to them, and then when they get the garment back, they dip, because it's like against their nature to be bound. And this is so there are a bunch of variations of this theme of like animal brides from type 400 to type 409. And phylogenetic research is this like linguistic research that they traced language like genetics and can trace using that can trace like the origin of words and story beats through like the history of human language. It's like slightly controversial, but like not without merit. And they were using this to explore, like the Brothers Grimm always said, like fairy tales, oral folk tales have always been around. And then other people were like, how could pores invent things? They come from literature and then became oral. And so the phylogenetic research traced the animal bride as one of the oldest story types in the world. So men trying to force women to do what they want, tales all this time. Uh,
Literally.
so using that through human history, it goes back all the way back to Proto-Indo-European. So like the pre-language of all like the languages from like India through Europe. This kind of like pre like reconstructed language. Uh and 425C, Beating the Beast, appears in Proto-Western Indo-European as opposed to like the Indo-Iranian language family. So the type that's more like recognizable as Beauty and Beast is a little more Western. Uh, but how do we go from animal brides to animal dudes? How we're talking about the history of furries today.
Mm.
So, uh, so if 402 to 409 cover various brides as plants, animals, like magical creatures, then you get 4010, Sleeping Beauty, or 410 is Sleeping Beauty.
Mm.
So she's magic, and then you get 412, Maiden with Separable Soul and a Necklace. I love some of these tail type names because they have to get really specific. Or 413, Stolen Clothing, which also includes like Swan Maidens and Selkies. And
Okay.
then jump to 425, The Search for the Lost Husband. Now, this includes 4205A, Animalist Bridegroom. Now, this is East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Do you remember we told this one, Hannah, in the 2017 Beauty and the Beast? Girl, polar bear, husband, trolls, long noses, hags and crags.
Yep.
Yeah. And also The Enchanted Snake, which is a really small story, so I'm going to tell a summed up version. It's from the Panchatantra, which is one of the oldest folklore books. It's this huge ass book from ancient India. And it's a story where a woman who wants a child gives birth to a snake. She loves the snake. She treasures the snake. She feeds it, keeps it in a box. And when her and her husband go to a local wedding, she's like crying. She's like, I love my son. I want him to have a wedding. Why don't you like get a bride for our son? And he loves his wife, her husband. So he's like, because I love her so much, I'm gonna try and do this. He finds this girl who's like sent over, and when she starts to hear it's a snake, her servants are like, you need to back out. And she's like, I made a commitment and I'm sticking to it. Turns out at night, the snake can take off his snake skin and he's a hottie. Uh,
Love
Oh,
it.
yeah. And
good
so
for her.
when they find that out, because at first she's like, what's going on? Who's this strange man? They destroy the snake skin, and now she just has a hot husband.
Wow. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So yeah. Uh
Dumb servants.
Yeah.
yeah. She's like, a maiden is only promised once. And I'm like, this is some red pill content, honey, but okay. Uh, it's ancient India, so like, maybe
Yeah.
you get a pass. Then 4205B or 425B is Son of the Witch or the Witch's Tasks. So this involves tasks designed to win back a beloved. So Cupid and Psyche, which we also talked about in Beauty and the Beast, where this girl marries Cupid, there's a separation, and Venus makes her do all these tasks to like prove her worth slash kill her because she hates her. Uh, and Cupid and Psyche is often considered the OG fairy tale, like the shift in Western culture from classical mythology to fairy tale. And a lot of tropes that are common in fairy tales originate. And in my opinion, my uneducated opinion, it's a signal of a POV trend shift because the beautiful princess was always around in mythology, but no one, aside from there are exceptions, but in general, no one gave a shit how she felt about anything. And then in Cupid and Psyche, like her personal happiness is suddenly like what we are the audience are supposed to care about. And that's like the shift of fairy tales. There are maidens and beautiful princesses, but now suddenly you're like, are they happy? Do they enjoy what's happening to them? Like that is much more of a concern. Whereas, did anyone care about what of Troy thought? Like, we still don't know if she was kidnapped by
Mm.
Paris, she ran away with Paris, because to them, linguistically, that was irrelevant. So it's a shift. So that from then we get 425C, which is Beauty and the Beast. And so that includes Beauty and the Beast, the Singing Spring Lark, which is the one we told also in the 2017 Beauty and the Beast, with like the sorceress and the lion. Yeah. And there's 425D, Vanished Husband, and 425E, Enchanted Husband Sings Lullaby.
Mm.
Uh, the ATU continues on. There's princes turning into donkeys, birds, lindworms, and famously frogs.
Mm.
There's also Hans my Hedgehog, which is where a sun is like a hedgehog-esque creature, and that has a shout out in The Witcher. And then we get to sibling stories like little brother and little sister, and the maiden who seeks her brothers, like the famous story of the Seven Swans. And then by the time you get to 460, now we're in supernatural tasks. We're in a different territory. But so that's kind of like this whole clumping of different variations of people as animals are enchanted, breaking curses, marrying, and like monsters. So we've been telling this story again and again. And that's kind of, I wanted to dive into that because as we talk about Supernatural Romance Month, some of those tale types include vampires. Some of them
Hmm.
include creatures like werewolves, snakes that can shed their skin. There's just something we've been telling and like examining, like there's a sexual aspect to it, like what's beastly, what's human, what's magic, what's mundane, like, and as civilization evolves, like that, how we view that changes. And that's specifically when we talk about Beauty and the Beast. This name comes from 1740. That's 265 years before Disney's Chicken Little.
Mm.
And La Belle and la Bête by Gabrielle Suzanne Barbeau de Villeneuve is a novella that I read and hated for our La
It's
Belle and
like
la Bête episode.
famously hated.
Famously, it was 5 hours. The narrator was boring and also made a bunch of problematic content, but it was the only free version I could find. Uh, and the arc of that five, I guess, aside from like the 2 hours of it that was just backstory and fairy politics, was all
That's
bells.
important.
She felt it was. The arc was all bells or beauties. Like she's the one who goes through a change. Uh, then Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont in 1756 made an abridged, much more like morally straightforward version that became like the standard Beauty and the Beast. That's the one that was circulated the most. The Brothers Grimm had their Cabbage Core version, Summer Garden, Winter Garden, that they cut in favor of the Lilting Leaping Lark or the Lady and the Lion. So they were like, this Beauty and the Beast, that one was too French. Here's one that's a little more spicy, a little more
Hmm.
German. Then, we get the 1946 movie, a horny, gay French movie where with a lot of sexual undertones, where the beast is monstrous. He hunts animals. There's like blood dripping down him. He's like outside her
Mm.
door. Sorry, I'm a
I'm a
beast.
beast.
You know, he's dipping out of conversations like Edward and Twilight. That was a fun movie. But so like now Beast was always polite, aside from when he threatened her father, or in the Brothers Grimm version where he kidnapped her from her house.
Would we call him polite?
Well,
Okay,
that's
sure. I'm
key.
not gonna
That's
argue. I'm not
key.
gonna argue.
No, I think please argue, but I think it's like the story wants us to think the Beast is good. So he is not witty, he's not handsome, he's ugly, but he's good. And that's kind of they're trying to prep girls to be like when your father sets you up with somebody, they may be old, they may be ugly, but maybe they're good. Like that's the like how the specific version of Beauty and the Beast was being told. Like that what
Okay.
value do you find in a marriage? Now,
Like he at least embodies basic decorum between humans and human interaction. He isn't verbally accosting people.
yeah.
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 It's not verbally accosting people like, Alex Pettyfer
But
does.
in 1991, when we get the famous Disney version,
Right.
the major arc is the Beast, right? He is not polite. He's screaming at her
Yeah,
door, then
Exactly.
starve, he's bestial. Uh, he changes for her, he saves her from the wolves. He wants to be a better person because of her. And there's a lot of discussion that can go into that. Um, but Belle's arc is relatively small in that she just kind of needs to doesn't she has to like embrace the adventure that she's on or just kind of understand him, but like the major arc is the beast, like he goes through the transformation, whereas before it was usually Belle's arc to like see the
Mm.
value within. um and then we get the 2017 disaster, but in the meantime we get Beastly, where Belle is deprived of her arc and her inner life, and the journey is entirely the beast's.
uh,
She is not a
Hmm.
POV character at all.
no.
No, no.
Uh, and this journey to me represents the 2000s, 2010s reversal of the fairy tale's moral. Um, and to compare it to, we talked a lot about with Sleeping Beauty, that is the evolution of a story goes from a story that's about a rapist to society being like, wow, we hate him. I want to know more about this magical girl and what's going on with like her. And the story with each adaptation centers her more and more, never fully quite getting there in a major adaptation, and then going off the rails to then be about Maleficent in and the Evil Fairy in 2013 or 2014, and once again decenters her. But where Sleeping Beauty goes through a very slow crawl to interiority, with each fairy tale version, each movie version giving her a little bit more of a feeling, a want, a desire, and decentering the male, reducing his getting rid of his sexual violence and making him someone who's worthy of her over time. So our society rejects the initial version of the story and slowly transforms it. Beauty and the Beast almost goes through a reverse where Belle's arc becomes less and less central. Now, I hated Villeneuve's version and I hated her Belle. She was so annoying. But like less about her and her interiority and more about the man in the story, more about his need for redemption. And that need for redemption becomes greater and more justified. And she becomes like a hard to crack object to be won. And I think Beastly typifies this the most
Mm.
because like she's just something to win over, and he's might be the most irredeemable beast. Maybe the 2017 one because it implies that he was like overtaxing people and like destroying the town. So that's but in what we witness as film goers, it might be Kyle Kingston, because he's pretty awful.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Hmm.
And this is like leads to me is that I think the central like truth to Beauty and the Beast is I think it's very hard to adapt to modern times because its plot elements of the French Beauty and the Beast can only fully exist in a time and place where women are property that can
Yeah.
be exchanged. Now, Beauty and the Beast did always feature that Belle chose to do this. Like her
Hmm.
father didn't throw her in, she made the choice, which because
Mm.
it was written by a woman, like she was like there was a celebration of her virtue and her willingness to make choices, even though they were often very self-sacrificing. Um, but it comes from like being exchanged by your father is scary but standard and just par for the course. So the beast isn't that bad in their mental time frame because that's just how women are treated in general. But when you take it out of that context, like possessing a woman like property is human trafficking to us. And we're
Correct.
like, oh, it's really hard to make that okay in any kind of
Yeah.
modern world. And it really wasn't okay then, but because of like our old-timey like goggles of this was normal to them, like you us as the audience can like accept it more.
Right.
But
Mm.
without that, you're just kind of like, oh my God, you
Yeah, you're
know?
like, that's no longer a standard, so it can't fly now.
Yeah.
Instead, we can just shuffle her to this random person's house because she's
In
in
danger?
question mark?
From a drug lord named Victor, who's also like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, ambition, hustle,
Mission. Hustle culture.
girl
This is
boss.
really making me reframe, not to go off topic, but it really feels like 50 Shades of Grey was like trying to give us consensual Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
sure that's
Yeah.
something that was happening at that. Like,
Yeah.
how do you, which is, I don't know if I'm a fan of how she chose to do it, but that is like, that's a cool thing to try. I think it's worth playing with our
Hmm.
stories and how do we fix them. Uh, and just, like, Cinderella, right? It has an endless slew of modern adaptations because the setup is well, A, because as we talked before, Cinderella's that bitch. She's like the queen of fairy tales. But like her it's much easier to place her story in modern times because the abuse of women and children is still very prevalent, and
Yep.
that's just kind of
Hmm.
the setup. Well, the idea of women as objects is still prevalent, but not as accepted.
We just like
Uh,
to pretend it isn't.
we just like to pretend it is.
Yeah.
It's more repulsive. And so I just want to point that out because the desire to return to the world where women are objects is stronger than ever in our society. And I love Beauty and the Beast as much as the next guy, but maybe let's not recreate the world that made it.
Yeah.
Even when you have to choose the bear, that's still not a great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this Lindy doesn't even get to choose the bear, this Belle. She doesn't even
No.
get that choice.
Mm-mm. She has to pick a tattooed freak with cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she doesn't
The
even get to
cuts
be
are what
like,
threw me.
Yeah. That and like the weird silver thing
what,
on
yeah, what
his
Yeah.
was,
forehead. I can't wait to talk about character design.
yeah. Let's talk about the movie. But yeah, again, the animated movie, she says, I'll take me instead. She makes that very empowered choice. We can't even give this Belle that much.
Yeah, because she's
You,
trying to save someone, but like
yeah.
she, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in this one. I
There
still don't
definitely was like
understand.
a scene that they cut that like we were just supposed to fill in the gaps, and even I was just like, I don't, what was the conversation there?
Yeah,
Right?
everything about what made her there, I think maybe because they realized it was uncomfortable.
Mm.
Everything about that was just kind of like glossed over.
Well, yeah, because there's a murder that
Yeah.
happens in this
Her
movie,
dad kills
Was
someone.
it her
and then
dad or
it's
was it Kyle?
thank you.
No, it
I
was
don't.
her dad. It was her dad.
Well, maybe I was just slightly too focused on my puzzle, but I was like, it was happening, and then like I looked down, I looked back up, and the guy's dead, and I was like, did he just murder someone?
He's
But I
Yeah.
Beasley.
guess
No, the dad is like holding the gun. Yeah, it was the
Okay.
dad.
got it. Okay.
Because
And
because then the guy was like, your daughter for my brother.
Oh yeah. That
Yeah.
was very
Wild.
confusing.
And
Also,
then and then yeah, Kyle slash Hunter is
Hmm.
like, uh, no, I'll babysitter. And it's like, bro, no one asked you.
no one, why are you
What
involved?
random guy?
With the metal thing in your forehead.
Yeah, what is that?
Do you remember the
Another
care
bad dad.
another one for the books, another bad
Yeah.
dad. Speaking of bad dads, do you remember No Heart from the Care Bears?
No, I
No.
never watched the Care
The
Bears.
third time the Care Bears are coming up on this podcast. But there was he had a daughter who was really annoying and she had a sidekick named Beastly and she'd always be like, Beastly. And so
Oh
whenever I
boy.
hear this movie, that's what I think of.
As you should.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And that fits how I feel about this movie. Uh so we meet, welcome to modern day. Embrace the suck. That's what you have to do to deal
Well,
with this
more
movie.
importantly, we open up on a forgotten banger, Vanity by Lady Gaga.
But a
Like,
cover.
But
no, that
like
was her.
On the soundtrack of the movie that I listened to on Spotify while I did my notes, it's a cover because I don't think they could afford Lady Gaga on the CD.
that's
Oh, okay. Yes. So I was gonna say, because in
hilarious.
the movie that is fully the original. I had to pause. I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute.
You're 2 seconds
Um,
in, you pause.
yeah, I had to
Is
pause
that House
just
of
because
Gucci's Lady Gaga?
Yeah, Folie à
it makes
Deux, Lady
perfect sense
Gaga,
that they got Lady Gaga, a 2011 Lady
2011.
Gaga for this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, he's working out. This is where we're getting to know a little bit of our character.
Because he's vain, so they're
Hmm.
gonna sing a song called Vanity.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a bit on the nose, but I did love it still.
And he is hot, allegedly.
Sure.
I love that you said allegedly.
Because I can look at
Yeah.
him and be like, yes, that is a conventionally like attractive man, but he does
Am I
nothing for
feeling
me.
anything? Yeah, no.
No.
He's not even
No.
like hot in a mean way. Like even his meanness
No.
isn't like it's just like oh
No. And also, like, he can't do an American accent. Like, he
Yeah.
cannot. And so he just, like, I didn't really buy the delivery
Uh-uh.
of any of his lines. They were all so clearly ADR that they almost didn't make any sense.
now
Is he Australian or is
He's
he
British.
British?
He's
Okay.
British.
why not make him British? Because
Yeah.
that being hot with a British accent would make you very popular in American high school.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
if you're hot, rich, have a British accent, and
you're mean.
you're mean, and for an American audience, adding any layer of Britishness helps us accept old-timey plot
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
So that might have
Hmm.
made the Beauty and the Beast like more palatable.
But it also, the strange thing about the old timey plot points is that they almost like doubled down with this being like a somewhat futuristic society. Like, I was very confused. I don't know if I was the only one when it first opened. I was like, did this movie take place in the future? Because there was something about that high school that felt like we were
Future.
at like a Fortune 500 tech company
Thank
Yeah.
you. I
that
was waiting
that
for Elon
had,
Musk to come out
right,
and
like,
release the new Tesla. Yeah.
right, it was giving like dystopian, and also like Mary Kate Olsen just like existing as like a goth witch in this high school, that like I was very confused what timeline we were in until Vanessa Hudgens and her scarves appeared, and then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we are in
Uh-huh.
2011, we
Yeah.
are in
Yeah.
2011.
Zoe Deschanel's wardrobe is here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Hmm.
it's very much giving Smash, lots of scarves. Deborah Messing,
Deborah
her
Messing.
costumer was also involved in this film. Yeah,
Hi, Teresa
from Smash.
Rebecca. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like that school was also very confusing to me because Vanessa Hudgens' character in whatever, conversation there is, she mentions that she's a scholarship kid, so it seems like this is, like a high tech
Yeah.
private school in New York City, but
Right.
I'm like, this is a Fortune 500 company,
Well,
absolutely.
everyone explains exactly like their background. Hi, I'm just a
Hmm.
defensive scholarship kid. Oh, you don't love me just because I'm a rich news anchor's son. I'm like, no teenager other than Gretchen Wieners, and that's the joke, refers to what their parents do that much.
Yes.
Also,
Uh-huh.
like news anchor? Are news anchors like
They're attractive, and
sure?
I'm sure they're you would be like an upper middle class.
But you're definitely new money, like very new money, if your
Yeah, like
parent is a news anchor. Like,
yeah,
and he
Allison
was giving old
Williams.
money prestigious,
Allison
like,
Williams girls, like she's not like head
right,
of her school in high school because her dad is an NBC news anchor. That's not happening,
right.
you
Yeah,
know? So it's like also it's Peter Krause, which is interesting because Peter Krause, I think
played a
he
news
was
anchor
on
in Sports Night.
yes, and I
Sports
was like,
Night.
"Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting." They're just but I loved he was there for 45 seconds.
yeah,
Hmm.
I
He
was
and
like,
he
never
was
comes
get
back.
your paycheck. Go back to
He
he
Six
never
Feet
comes
Under.
back.
he did
Yeah.
a great job with what he was given, which was like cartoonish dialogue, but
Two bad dads.
too bad dads. The daddy issues were so central. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
what's happening in this plot is I guess Kyle is wants to be head of the Green Party, which is like class president. And why didn't we not just say class president?
You
Like,
Yeah,
gotta
I didn't get that. I
overcomplicate
didn't
it.
get it at all. Because then they had to throw in some like environmentalism. They were
yeah.
like, it was very, that
He's
Because
was
this
very
like
is the
strange.
future.
he
Yeah,
doesn't, yeah.
and his opening speech didn't make any sense. And I was like, the thing that didn't make any sense to me is that like in order to be a successful like high school bully popular person, like there does have to be an element about you that people want to be around. And he
Hmm.
was just like nasty in his speech, and at one point I literally wrote it down. He said beautiful people get it better, that's just the way it is. And I'm like, if I were a high school student and someone was saying that to me, I would be like, get fucked. I would not be
Yeah.
voting for them as class president.
Even a
Yeah,
significant portion of the hot people would find that gross.
Right? I'm like, there's
yes.
nothing charming about it at all. Like at
There's
least
No.
Regina George was charming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's why she's like the type everyone's building to, is because you could believe how she would be popular.
Yeah.
Now so many movies struggle with this because the popular people are just like so blatantly like mean and disgusting, and like he wouldn't be class president. Maybe he'd get the center
No.
lunch table or whatever, but like he wouldn't be like popular enough to like win something.
No. And I
No.
feel like he's basically bullying these people into voting for him. And instead of doing the realistic thing where they would be like, no, they would be like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like,
They were all clapping for him.
no
Like what
one
Yeah.
he
would
was
think he's
saying was like,
cool. Everyone would be
no.
like, oh, your dad's a news anchor, you fucking dweeb. Like, they would
Yeah.
actually probably bully him.
Like
Like,
in
And
Wicked,
his
Glinda sings popular in the privacy of her own room when she talks about like you gotta be beautiful, you
right.
gotta be, and like she's doing it as like I'm just trying to be helpful. And you could have played that with him like telling his news runner or like his co-president, whatever his little toady is, like,
yeah.
you gotta have my face on the poster. Like beauty sells, like beautiful people get it better. Like that you gotta promote me as being hot. Like there's a way to do it in a way where it's like he could be a little charming but still arrogant. Like you could like see that. But like him standing up there, like telling ugly people embrace the suck, everyone hates you. Like that's just not. What if
He
someone who's unattractive is hitting on him and he's like nice, then turns around and rolls his eyes? You get that he's
he
shallow, but
he has no skills that would make anyone endeared to him as like
Mm-mm.
as a leader at all. Like his dad has to be good at his job and also he happens to be conventionally attractive, I guess.
I mean, Troy
But
Bolton in High School Musical is the basketball star. He has a skill
he
that
has a
makes him.
skill. But like this character has no skills. He's just an asshole. And it's like that's it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Uh,
No.
and
So
Mary
it's
Kay,
unrealistic from the get-go. The
and so
most realistic part is Mary Kay Olsen
being like this.
Yes.
being a
She
goth
provided her own
witch.
wardrobe. She provided her own wardrobe. I know for a fact. That's early days of the row are happening before our eyes.
And Vanessa Lindy, she's just rolling her eyes at this, like,
Does she
whatever.
have a last name? Do we know?
Not that I know of.
No.
Uh, so he's upset because the witch Mary-Kate, they just call her the witch. She defaced his posters and said, "Don't
Hmm.
embrace the suck."
Hmm.
And he's like, "I'm humiliated. I'm mad." He like blames Vanessa for it because she's running for treasurer. Um, and we also get another meme queen, Dakota Johnson is in this
Yeah.
movie.
Hmm.
She's his girlfriend. I love that she's here. Um, this guy is Gaston with like with a blonde hanger on and like a little small guy hanging on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
LeFou.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. It was literally if the Beast and Gaston were the same character in the animated movie, that movie would not work because the Beast, we do have moments where like his save the cat moments or like moments when he is like good,
Hmm.
but this character never has that. And the only one that I can think of would be his save the cat moment. I did not find to be genuine.
Yeah.
So I can't believe that. And then it's like, oh no, he's our protagonist. I'm not behind you. Why do I care? I hope he stays ugly and I hope he gets
Yeah.
hit by a
Yeah.
taxi.
He's
Yeah.
also like racist.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, that poor woman who definitely was not actually Jamaican. I didn't Google
Thank
that, but
you.
I was definitely not getting that she was
Something not right.
legitimately Jamaican. But yeah, that whole part, I was like, no, 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 we don't like that.
Don't you have to
And
go
that
home
woman
to
would
your
not,
16 children? And she's like, "I have two children back in
they're in Jamaica
Jamaica."
with their dad
And
because
you
they
know
can't be
that
here.
because she's been
Yeah.
his nanny his whole life.
And the fact that like, the key moment would be that if he at least treated her nicely,
Right.
Hmm.
we would be like,
Hmm.
okay, there is good to him. This is all a facade. This
Yes.
is not a
Right.
facade. This is who he
Yeah.
fucking is.
He's like that in his own home.
Yeah. Because yeah, if she was like the one person he's like sweet and genuine around because she like raised him, so he has a soft spot for her, you know, uh, and maybe he's trying to get his dad to help her or something, like
I
then you'd be like, okay, like he
Right. Like we didn't
exactly.
even get a sense that like his dad was kind of an awful person. And so that's why he's like I mean, obviously later there's some questionable things about his father, but like it's not even like his dad came home and was like this awful tyrant who like abused him. And we could be like, oh, okay, I understand. Like his dad seemed like a pretty personable, nice guy. Maybe a
he's
little vain, of
yeah,
course,
And
a
he
but
little
was
like,
very
cartoonishly
absent.
shallow. Yes, he's very
Very
yeah,
absent.
absent.
He has
But
daddy issues. His dad's absent, so he's just a racist, fat phobic, horrible piece of shit because his dad's shallow.
yeah, and that's it. It's like it would make more sense if at home he was like a sweet little muffin because in the outside world he's just emulating what his dad does to
right,
get ahead. Like that I
right.
think would make sense. And then it's like Belle or whatever
Yeah,
her name is only going to
Lindy.
like you if you're actually going to be to other people outside your home, like who know
yeah,
who you really are, to show who you really are instead of
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the dad was just it was like he wanted to like get his dad's approval, so he wanted to like fit like the mold of his dad. Um, but the dad was more like absent than disapproving. I guess it's just like it would make sense if he honestly he just had to be nice to Zola, then the whole family dynamic makes sense. And you're like, I get
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Uh so he's super yeah, he's super racist to her. And so he wins the election, but invites the witch as his date to the party. The Green Party, whatever. She's like, don't you
Was
have
it
a
like the prom?
girlfriend?
I think it was like the election winning party. Like,
Okay.
because that's the vibe I got. Because also Lindy is working a shift there
To save money for
That
Machu
didn't make
Picchu.
any sense to me being work study in high school, like working as a waitress
at your own
at the
school event.
school.
Like, I feel like that creates so many class issues that being a scholarship student would already create, and you're just reinforcing them at this school. It's like, why would you do that?
She's also the
Yeah.
treasurer. Didn't she win the election?
Yeah, so like why
Yeah.
doesn't she get to celebrate? It's like, oh, well, I get to celebrate after my shift is over. It's like, ma'am, what?
And then there's dancing, and I thought it was a house party, but then it was like
Right.
swanky.
And then he says one of my favorite lines ever to Mary Kate Olsen. Okay, Sarah, Sarah sucks to be an ugly cow.
Yeah, it's Spanish for sex. Yeah. And I was like,
Which
you are, you're offending literally every culture on the planet. Congratulations.
the most psychotic line a person could ever write. Oh,
Yeah.
other than embrace the suck, which just
Um,
sounds like a bad porno.
it does, yeah. Uh, so because he is having this flirty little moment with Lindy at the event and is like trying to be all charming because she's like, this is I'm not even like retaining what they talked about is hard. It's just kind of like,
This is where
oh
she says she's
They,
a scholarship student, right?
no, she already said that. She
yes.
said that like line number two
Oh,
out of her
okay.
mouth.
Got it. Got it.
But
Okay.
then they double down on it where he's like, "Oh, what is this, like a work study thing?" Like they're
Yeah.
really trying to make it clear that she is poor. It also, like, the thing I don't understand, his draw to her doesn't make any sense. Like
No.
there's nothing, like, I think they're trying to show early on, like, oh, he does have redeemable qualities, like he's interested in this peasant. But like it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense why he would, like, on it would have made way more sense if he was really mean to her. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I would have bought that so much more if he was like awful to her.
This is what I think is his save the cat moment where he's nice to her and gives her that flower. But I'm like, maybe he's just like trying to butter her up.
Oh, because he's yelling at Zola to get him an orchid, and he said he told her months ago, but he only told her yesterday, and I believe
Right.
her.
Yeah,
Um,
obviously.
and she gets a white rose, and Lindy knows what it means,
I'm
but
worthy of you.
Anastasia Steele is
Yes.
like, this is disgusting. I don't want it.
Yep.
I'm gonna look. It's supposed to be a political statement.
Uh-huh.
With a comment on the kids being woke, who's to say?
Yeah.
Uh,
And so he gives Vanessa Hudgens the flower and it's like that's his save the cat moment because I can't think of any other redeeming element or redeeming action that happens. And even then, I don't think that's redeeming because it's like I don't know that he's actually a genuine person at all because he is so mean to everyone except his dad. He's just like an angsty teen. So it's like I
Right.
don't get again, if he was nice to Zola, I would be like, okay, we have something to work with.
Well, they
uh,
definitely try to give that to us way later with like what
yeah,
he asks, which I won't, I'm not, no spoilers. I know
yeah, no,
we'll probably wait and
yeah.
talk
Uh-huh.
about that. But like even that sort of, I'm like, too late.
Too
Too
It's
little
only
late.
too
because
late.
he has finally started to see them as people.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
literally. And also the Neil Patrick Harris one, a little ableist. A
Oh,
Let's
they're
little
let's
so
just say
ableist.
a lot.
ableist.
Yeah. He's just Barney's a milder Barney Stinson with a disability. That's all that is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yep.
that
Yep. Yep. Yep.
character's
Yep.
already covered.
Yeah, it
And he
is.
makes I not to get into spoilers, but he makes the craziest jokes. There are so many times when she's at their house and I'm like, girl, you need to call the police.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, I mean, I feel like we have to jump ahead to talk about the curse and getting that because I have so many thoughts about
Okay,
the
we're
house.
basically
But
we're I just
So we're
they
at the
just
curse
they
happening,
take a
basically.
picture together before. Like she's like,
right.
just take a picture with me. And it plays Regina Spektor's on the radio, top billing in the
Hmm.
soundtrack. That was the number one track.
Oh, okay.
Not expecting that Regina Spektor in this movie's vibes opposite to me. That left me shook because I'm like nothing about that song like fits these two characters, fits even what they want us to think these two characters are. I was just like
Yeah.
I was gooped and gagged. But speaking of getting gooped and gagged, Mary-Kate Olsen, who's told she's an ugly cow.
It's Mary Kate Olsen. How
Yeah.
dare you?
I mean, I'm kind of like, is
Even
she
in the especially
ugly?
in the goth makeup, it's a look. Like
Yeah, I'm like,
It
she's
is.
it's
kind of
The
giving.
lips are a
serving.
little pale. The lips are a little pale. Even the I get who's going goth. That was the one thing where I was like, could we get just a touch of a pink?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She looked sickly.
But
yeah,
otherwise, like she's literally Mary Kate Olsen. Come on.
Yeah.
yeah.
In like one of her final, if not her final acting role.
I think this broke her.
She was like, I'm done with this. Yeah.
She's like,
Uh,
I'm literally Hollywood royalty at this point at like 20 something, 30 something, and I'm getting these kinds of role. I'm done. I don't blame her. I don't blame her.
She carried the film. She carried the film.
Did absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there's a, is it Elizabeth Olsen where they're like, oh, why are you so much nicer to us than your sisters? Some of the paparazzi said something like, and she was like, because you haven't been in my face my entire fucking life or something like that.
Exactly.
They're like,
Yeah.
go off. Yeah. Uh, so she's like, embrace the suck. And then he's having like flashes. Things are,
He's dizzy.
he's dizzy. Now, if I'm writing of this magical revenge against this bully character who likes to humiliate people publicly. Why does he get to turn into a beast in private?
Mm. It's so that he can come back to this community once he's hot again. That's why.
Yeah, because I'm like, I think
Serves
even
the
if
story
it's
only.
not, even if it's not like he's turning into a monster in front of everyone, like make him poop himself in front of
I
everyone. I
don't
don't
know if he
know.
should shit himself.
Because there
Uh
are there's something I struggle with in a lot of like high school movies or what it's like the level of like humiliation that like spurns like it just isn't quite where I'm like in order to be that humiliated, in order for people to like turn against you that much, you'd have to like shit yourself and vomit at the same time in front of everyone. And even then,
Okay.
like the people that cared about you would get over it. Like, it's like it's always
Not
just
his dad.
not his
Not
dad.
his dad. I have to say, when he was like hiding from his father and was like, "Why do you love me?" I was like, "Your dad's not going to be like, I only love you because you're hot, you know?" But then, like, flash forward, it does seem like his dad only loves him because he's hot.
and that's wild
That's
because
crazy.
that's that's yeah, that's disturbing.
And
I
that is humiliating.
I think
Yeah.
I think maybe it's also the fact that like he doesn't it's not necessarily how other people react to him that needs to change him. It's how he's reacting to
Yeah.
himself. It's more about how
Mm-hmm.
he sees himself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I know this is getting a little bit ahead, but I love that he ends up like deleting his MySpace. And the way he does it is like, oh, what was this? The line, I am no more.
I am no more.
I think
Uh,
that's what he says. And I was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
shut the
Death to
fuck up.
self. Yeah. Well, there was his about me was like hates fatties and
Yes.
uggos.
No, it didn't. I hate that.
Yes. It literally said that. It said interest, anything bangable, and then like things I don't
I
like
saw
is like
anything
fatties.
bangable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And there's
Oh
a
my God.
Fatties and uggos. Yeah.
this is thing that Hollywood runs into all the time. Okay, let's before as I so we're at the point he's turning into a beast. Mary-Kate Olsen is like, you're ugly, you're only gonna find love. You know, you have to find love within a year before the flowers on this tattoo, this very good looking tattoo, bloom again. Uh
Yeah, this animating tattoo.
Now Hollywood has this thing whenever it talks about beauty standards that it acknowledges the fat phobia is the elephant in the room. It's like they
Right.
acknowledge it existing, but they're like, if we cast a fat person, yikes. And then it's like, do you do the shallow Hal route?
Right.
That it's like, do you do the Debbie Ryan insatiable route? Like, there's a lot of icky, uncomfortable things that we as society don't know. We as society in Hollywood, especially, like, don't know how to handle. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, really, for someone like him, the punishment isn't giving him like cool tattoos and some burns. It would be like a change in his body physique.
Right.
Do we like the message that sends though to the impressionable children watching it? No, like I don't see them doing that with tact and grace. Um,
But it's
but
also like I don't know if they've made enough because also like he still has abs.
yeah,
And the
that's what
only
I'm
thing
like.
we
He's
see is that
ripped. He's yeah,
he works out. So it's like, okay, well, that's not going to change. He's still going to have abs and like biceps, great shoulders, whatever. But it's like, we don't see that he's like obsessed with how his face and hair looks, which I
yeah,
think would be a better character design if they want that situation to be how
yeah,
he becomes a beast.
Right. Like I almost wanted it to be that he like tries to cover it up. Like that we sort of
Yeah.
see him start to embrace like being
More than a
comfortable being
hoodie.
out in the world looking like, yeah, we can get him a
yeah,
hoodie, but I'm like, let's get him a wig and some like Party City concealer. You know, I want
Yes.
yeah,
to see
Uh-huh.
him trying to make himself beautiful. And then we like we see him get to a point where he's like comfortable truly being seen. but they didn't
Yeah.
even give us that.
And I think also because it is hinging on like you have to get someone to love you for you. It's like, but what about self-love? Because he still hates himself in that skin.
Yeah.
So it's
Hmm.
like you need to look inward, discover who the fuck you are, and be okay with like you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror other than just because you're hot. Like
Right.
it, yeah.
It's true. In the words of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love anybody else?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Can I get an amen?
I can't get it,
Amen.
man. Also, he's in New York City. If he was in some
Yeah.
Midwestern, like podunk town, and he looked like that, I could see, okay, you're a social pariah.
Yeah.
In New
No
York,
one's batting an eye. No one
yeah,
is batting
Yep.
an eye.
Mm-mm.
you would have success online dating looking like that in New York. You would be getting
Especially in
in-person meeting.
Brooklyn, where his dad sends him.
Yeah, like you could go to the coffee shop, no questions asked, you
Because
know.
like what is like ugly about that is really just like the cuts. It's like,
Yeah, and the weird
whoa,
metal
like
thing.
were
Yeah,
you just attacked kind of thing. The metal
Yeah.
thing, I think you could get away with that being like, yeah, I got like this like weird metal work tattoo where like someone cut me and then like hot metal on my face fucking hurt, but it could be dope.
Batman.
The face
Yeah,
tattoos, like that could be dope. It's really
Yeah.
just like the cuts and stuff, they look raw. So it's
yeah,
like it's jarring.
unhealthy. Yeah,
And
Hmm.
he's bald, so what?
yeah, whatever.
Like
So is
he has
Mr. Clean.
alopecia. A lot of people have alopecia and they work through it and they look great. Like who who cares? Like
Yeah,
that's why I don't understand his character design from a physical perspective because I'm like I
and
want
there.
him to turn into a actual hairy beast and
Well,
fucking deal with
Hmm.
that.
okay, because there's an aspect of Beauty and the Beast that is about beauty and appearance, right? But there's also like the appearance isn't he's just ugly. The appearance is he is not a human. Like he is
Yeah.
a creature.
Right.
Because if he's just unattractive or differently able, that's Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's that story, which
Yeah.
almost ends more tragically because people treat people with disabilities pretty bad in medieval times and now.
Yeah.
Um, it's like it's just there is again when you adapt a story, there's a lot of like stuff that comes with it when you place it in modern times, and it doesn't adapt as cleanly as you'd think.
And doesn't Mary Kate Olsen, her character basically is like, you're as ugly on the outside as you are on the inside type of thing. And I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like he should be
I
a
don't
slug
know.
then. This should be would you
Yeah.
love me still if I was a worm?
Literally the ugliest insect you've ever seen. That's what
Yeah.
his face should look
It
like.
smells. Yeah. Uh, plastic surgery won't work. His dad is trying to fix him, handle
Right.
it, and then hides him away in Brooklyn. And he's like, Dad doesn't love me because I'm not hot anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
yeah.
also like Brooklyn, such a choice because it's like he's still in New York. Like
Send
it's
him
not
to
like he
Long
sent him
Island.
away. Yeah, like send him, put him on a boat, and send him away. That's not really that far to go. Like he's
He should
still
go to the
walking
lake
around.
cottage that they apparently
Okay,
have
when
at the
we
end.
saw that, I was like, why haven't we been here the whole time? Why have
That's
we
not a
been in an
cottage,
empty
that's a
townhouse?
mansion.
Yeah. Where's the my family's old money sort of sending you to a remote castle in Switzerland?
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, I know we were trying to give the Beauty and the Beast of like he's in this like empty, like rundown
Yeah.
mansion, but like very strange. Like
Very
he has access to Amazon, like he can get himself whatever one click and he's got what he needs.
Hmm.
and our
Why are we
if we're trying to hide Belle from a drug dealer who's trying to like Brooklyn isn't the
Why are we a
escape.
bridge away?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
right? Like we're
upstate
a
New
quick
York. It is
train ride.
Switzerland. Yeah. Uh, but he's shunted away. He's sad. He's out moping. He sees Dakota Johnson making out with his LeFou at this party,
Right.
this Halloween party. And because he's mad at the witch, like, fix me. And she's like, you haven't learned anything. And
Well, it's also been 3 months.
yeah,
Right.
And like the school thinks that he went away to rehab. Um, and this is also where we overhear Dakota Johnson being like, like all he wanted from me was to be mean, and like I felt like I had to just be on all the time.
Yeah,
And
she had to
now that
pretend to
he's
like limes. And that's not the true her, Ellen. That's not the truth. That's not her truth.
that's God, she is an incredible person. She really is.
No,
Uh,
truly. How
yeah.
old was she in that movie?
God,
Young. She would have been like
yeah,
16 or 17.
pretty
How old is
young,
she
yeah.
now?
Isn't she? I don't know. I'm Googling this.
She's
I should have
ageless
probably
to
looked at.
me.
Yeah,
Well,
ageless.
that's why I like wrote down like a young Dakota Johnson and I was like, I don't even know how old the woman is
Well, yeah, 'cause
now.
she was, well, maybe like
Oh,
early
she's
20s.
35 right now. 1989 to okay, yeah. So she was in her early 20s.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
really early 20s. But still, I mean, this is probably one of the first things that she did that was like big-ish, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I do
And then she said,
love.
I really like this theme.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go on
Find me
and
more roles like that.
star in something
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
I do like that instead of just being like the shallow mean girlfriend, she was actually like, I'm like a complex person, but I was dating someone who was terrible and made me the worst version of myself.
I
Yeah.
agree. I actually think there is something there too that again that like with this person that he was dating supposedly, allegedly, that like he wasn't even like very nice to her and like nice around her, that like that's how much of a facade he was putting up. So it's like, but that's not
Yeah.
super clear to us when he's
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
alone.
So she's cheating on him. She hasn't messaged him back, even though he's off studying spiders in the Amazon with her mom.
Yeah.
He's in rehab. She doesn't know, so she's just like
It's crazy that they chose rehab and not like,
he went to a different
well,
school.
or like he
Yeah.
got injured or is like really
Yeah,
sick. But I guess it's because they didn't want people to be able to visit him. That like
yeah,
he's in like that kind of rehab, like a lockdown. He's not allowed to really talk to people. I don't know.
I know. I
and
feel like boarding school would have made more sense. Like,
Yeah.
but Lindy is like, oh, I'm spying on you, spying on them. Uh, she's like, with the guy they're talking about, they're way off about him, and I'm like, aren't He's like,
Oh,
I appreciate that he called it like he saw it, even if he was wrong. And I'm like, Lindy's a Trump voter.
thank you. I said, Miss Ma'am, this is the kind of attitude that got Donald Trump elected a second time. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
when she calls him a shot of life, I was like, huh?
Yeah, wild.
And she's just like, I love romance. Like, and this girl's cheating, so she doesn't. Whatever happened to romance because she's moving on from her toxic ex. Uh,
Listen, yeah, she clearly didn't hear the thing where like, yeah, he made such a toxic environment around me that I felt like I had to be mean all the time, and now I actually feel like free to be myself. And she's like, "That's disgusting, you cheater." It's like,
yeah.
shut up.
She's like, I just, what
Stop
happened to,
being so judgy. You don't
yeah.
know.
That's maybe they're meant for each other then. Because she's
Yeah.
like, what happened to sappy, long love letters? And that's supposed to be giving her like depth, romance. She's our Belle. But to me, it's giving like
Right.
she liked him because he was hot.
Yep.
Yeah,
And so that's kind
exactly.
of the opposite of like what Beauty and the Beast in general, and especially this version, is trying to tell us.
Mm. Yeah.
It's very remember in the long novella of Beauty and the Beast that I hated, she was like falling in love with the hot prince in her dreams and then eye rolling her at the beast every day. And
Yeah.
then in the shortened version, they like cut all that and made her actually like the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like we're like losing the plot here. We're losing the plot. Uh,
Yeah, it also felt like because I think it comes up later on when she like admits that she had a crush on Kyle and Kyle is like shocked that someone liked him, that like we're supposed to get this sense that like she knew the true him, but they only had one conversation.
Yeah.
yeah, and she
Literally.
points it out that like we haven't spoken in 3 years or whatever.
Yeah, we've been here for 3 years. This is the first time we've ever spoken. He's like, I should fix that because we're about to work together and I need to save the cat moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah,
Yeah.
because then it almost changes it to be like she has to fall out of love with Kyle and in love with Hunter. Like that's kind of what
He's got
the
to embrace
Yeah.
the
she's
suck.
kind of the villain
Yeah.
in
Well,
a
that's
way.
functionally she is our almost the narrative's antagonist because there is no opposing force.
Right.
Mm.
Because but he's stalking her. She's running around New York with headphones, dancing around.
With
This is what,
headphones and a Beat AIDS poster hung in her room.
yeah. This is what Kayla. This is the scene she wanted to highlight. That she
Okay.
was dancing around New York, listening to music, not paying attention to where she was that night. Uh,
And just like singing out loud and then laughing to yourself, like, I'm so cute.
It's
yeah.
giving a very 2011 Vanessa Hudgens on social
Absolutely.
media, like being like the people's hippie princess. Like
Yeah.
that was her
Uh-huh.
motivation.
That was her motivation. And he also has NPH is his blind tutor who hates being blind and thinks being blind is living in hell. And it's a
When
curse.
he asked him, "You went to a regular school?" When NPH is talking about, and it's like, well, yeah, blind people go to school. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking
They
about?
don't just like this is not the 60s where they may have been shuffled off to like asylums or
Yeah, I'm like,
something.
he's not
That's how they
Helen
treated
Keller.
people. Yeah, it's like of course, and that's before he even like told him how he lost his sight because he wasn't born blind, he just
Right.
lost his sight.
His
So it's
No, and
friends
like,
were
then
losing his
he,
their virginity, but I lost my eyesight.
but that was the reason why he went to a normal school. And I'm like, blind people go to normal
yes,
schools.
they
I
do.
mean, sure, there are schools for the blind,
Yeah.
amazing. But I
But
had, I
that's
think, two different blind students and a blind teacher in my high school.
yeah,
He had a
it
seeing eye dog, it was a little black lab, and we all got to pet him.
love that.
It
Yeah,
was really chic.
it's like he understands so little of the world that he thinks that like people who are not conventionally attractive, quote unquote perfectly abled are like segregated from everyone else. Like
Yeah.
he thinks he's living in the Uglies universe.
Yeah. The Ugly
Right.
Uh
Dolls universe.
can't wait to talk about Uglies, the Netflix original film. Um but yeah, like I don't understand Neil Patrick Harris. Is he supposed to be Mrs. Potts?
I think he's supposed to be
Or
Lumiere,
He's supposed
Lumiere?
to be
Yes, yes,
Lumiere.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
without the French accent, the level of sexual harassment just isn't
The
charming.
level of sexual harassment of children
Yeah.
is abhorrent at the very
He
least.
calls her a guy's
Also, his
girl at one point.
bedazzled cane.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice his bedazzled seeing eye cane?
I did not
It has like a crystal ball at the top, and then it's like bedazzled, and then becomes like a normal cane.
love.
But I was like, is he supposed to be gay? Like, I wasn't sure
Can't
if that
tell.
was supposed to be the nod that like he is a gay man.
And he's again Barney Stinson. He literally like in that
Yes.
content or in that conversation that Cullen mentioned where he's like, yeah, like everyone was losing their virginity. I lost my eyesight. Uh, and he says like, oh, but it's okay. Like chicks love blind guys. It's
It's
like
supposed to be
you're just Barney
ironic.
Stinson.
Yeah.
I feel like they do this with NPH a lot, where they're like really going out of their way to make him not gay, and it just comes across as like a middle
Well,
Gay.
schooler trying to like be like I'm a cool guy. And it's like because he's supposed to be like giving him romantic advice, they don't want it to come from like a gay place where it's like it's supposed to be heterosexual romantic advice. I think it's less about NPH being a gay man and more about like trying to prevent the romance is being perceived as gay, and I'm like, this needs a little rainbow magic. This is version of Beauty and the Beast because all the other ones were benefiting from it, and this is dry.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think this is what like this is sort of right in the middle of How I Met Your Mother. So he's literally
Uh,
just again playing a version of a character he's already playing on TV right now. So it's
Yeah,
like we're at this
Yeah.
point.
and yeah, he's just because Alex Pettifer, Kyle Hunter, whatever, doesn't want to do school. He just wants to stalk Vanessa Hudgens, and they're all very supportive of this. They're like, "Oh, a girl," I'm like. He's like, oh, well, we
Question.
haven't had a conversation. I'm like, that's a red flag.
Ha have has he told them about his curse?
No.
Okay,
No.
okay, okay. Because later on, that is a confusing thing for
Well,
me.
later on, it seems like they do know.
Yeah, but it feels like why would they know if it wasn't a scene in this film?
Yes. That's not
Right.
a,
I
that's
But
a
was
in
deeply
scene.
real Beauty and the
confused.
Beast, they know that in order for him to not be a beast, he has to fall in love, right?
Yes,
Because
they
isn't that
know
Yeah,
why
that.
they're trying to like
that's
charm Belle?
because
Yeah.
they're also their life hinges
Sure.
on that too.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, but yeah, I don't know. It's deeply confusing. Anyway,
Uh, so yeah, he notices that her dad is a junkie, and there's the confusing action sequence where he like saves her. It's like, Dad, not again. And then the guy gets shot, and the other drug dealer is like, your daughter for my brother. And then he's like, well, I'll keep her safe. He's like, who the fuck are you? Why am I giving you my daughter? And then he takes two
right?
separate pictures, and it's like, these go to the cops unless you give me your daughter.
Is that what he does?
Yeah,
He like so wait,
he's blackmailing them
Kyle blackmails the dad.
for his daughter.
Oh, okay, so it is sort
Right.
of like kidnap.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I missed that part because I was like, oh, okay, this is how they get around the whole kidnap thing. The dad takes her there because she needs to be in the witness protection
yeah.
But
unofficially.
but
But
the
when,
dad doesn't tell her that she was kidnapped. The dad is
No.
like, this is my friend's son, and he's gonna
yeah,
protect you. And that's the part for me that like I was like, okay, this is a girl who has grown up in New York City with a drug addict dad, which means she's had to take care of herself because well,
Hmm.
that's the vibe they're giving us is that she's always kind of been on her own. Just because her dad tells her to go stay at this random place, she's not staying.
she's
No.
not going to school.
Like, yeah, she's just gonna get on the train and go to
But
school. Like,
she
why did
knows that she has to be there for her
no?
own safety because later
Yeah.
on, the dad's like,
Yeah, she
uh,
knows that's why, but she's
Victor went to jail. Like Victor's been arrested. It's safe for you now. Which I'm like,
Oh,
so
right.
she does vaguely know.
but she does
Because
it,
it doesn't seem like she knows that when she's being dropped off. Like it
Yes,
does not, and that's
exactly.
why I was like, I feel like we're missing the conversation that got her into that house.
100%.
another example for this to make more sense is if Beastly, whatever his name is, he looks like someone who could be, maybe he did drugs recreationally before and now he's involved in dealing and he knows her dad, and so they have a relationship, and maybe he was nice to her dad when he was like needed someone to take him to the hospital, or like, like maybe he did something for her dad so they would have a reason for the dad to trust him, and then that could also be a save the cat moment,
Right.
like there's like a, and then that would also make the dad sending her to him
Make more
less
sense.
creepy on everyone's part. Because right now he's
But
trafficking his daughter.
yet he is putting her somewhere where he thinks is safe, but it's not,
He
he
doesn't think.
chooses that place. Right. He's doing that. That's a guise, but he's doing it under being,
Protect himself.
yes, being
And he
blackmailed.
and he
So
knows,
yeah, I
like,
guess it is trafficking
a strange man demands your daughter and you're gonna send her to his
to a
house.
different strange man. Yeah. Oh,
Like
oh, I see.
that's like, we
Yeah.
know, like, we live on Earth. We know how things happen.
Right.
That's
Well,
just
he demands her, and then he's like, "Well, I can protect her." And it's like, "You're not beating the allegations right now, sir."
no,
But
no.
he's gonna do it to save his
No.
own ass. Yeah,
I also just feel
wow.
like the storyline with Victor, like there could have been something there with the Victor story. Like we get like I honestly thought when she got the text message that was like Victor is in jail. You can come home now. I was like, oh, she's gonna go home. It was actually Victor stole the dad's phone and she's gonna be in danger. Like I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, we're gonna get like, and it's like, no, no, no. Victor actually did just go to jail. Like
This
there was
this
no,
storyline they introduced is gonna come back. Surely it's not just gonna
yeah,
be the minuscule excuse to get her into his house.
That was a
yeah, or
cut
like
alternate ending.
Victor was going to be like pursuing her the whole time.
He
And
would
Yeah.
so, like,
actually have to protect her and not just
Like the
no.
beast
take her to
protector.
the zoo in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Okay, that also, I'm sorry. The fact, okay, this is 2011. He grew up then, we're thinking kind of similar timeline to us.
Yeah.
Okay. If he grew up in Manhattan, his dad is not taking him, or his mom, whatever, is not taking him to the Carroll Gardens Zoo in Brooklyn. Like, those two communities did not mix at that time. Someone say they don't mix now, but it's like he would take him to the Central Park
Park
Zoo.
Zoo.
Like, he's
That's
from Manhattan.
that's why I was so confused. I was like, wait, isn't it the Central Park Zoo? And then I was like, oh, it was like, then they basically said like, yeah, we're still in Brooklyn. I was like, oh yeah, that he's never been to the zoo. He would never go
No,
to the poor people's zoo.
no.
Yeah. Well,
Wild.
the example of that I think of when I ran into this challenge in my Disney fan fiction, set in a modern high school for Beauty and the Beast, magic wasn't introduced till like a fourth of the way in. So I had that the Beast was paying off a blackmailer who was blackmailing Belle. So he was paying Gaston the blackmail fees, and then they were fake dating. And then eventually they resolve this situation, the blackmail, and he's like, let's real date. And she's like, this is actually all really fucked up. And she breaks up with him.
Wow.
And that was me trying to be like the situation I created myself a few years ago when I started writing this. I don't love. How do I get out of it?
Yeah. And this movie tripled down.
Dribble down. Yeah. So Lindy's just living in this house. She's like, I'm here, I guess. Doesn't even greet her. Uh, there's nothing with her bonding with Zola, like Belle and Mrs. Potts. She's just
Right.
in her room talking about she really wants to go to Machu Picchu.
The
And
chokehold that Machu Picchu has on this girl.
she's been
Yeah.
saving for years.
And she saves so much, and yet they still take a bus all the way to South America. The bus,
That
the
threw
line,
me. That
the
threw me.
HR line of the bus to Machu Picchu is leaving. So I almost flipped my puzzle table. It's like, what? You're going on a bus?
Not even the bus to the airport to go to Machu
The
Picchu.
Machu Picchu bus. I was like, they're gonna get there and immediately have to turn around.
Hold on, I'm just gonna do a quick. You guys keep going. I'm gonna open in maps and see what the drive from Manhattan to Machu Picchu is. Just give me 1 second. Okay.
Google Maps is gonna be like, please just take a plane, a boat.
Okay, so unfortunately, you can't drive from
Across the
Manhattan
Panama Canal.
from
you might be
Manhattan
able to
to
do like,
Peru.
yeah,
You can't do it. Unfortunately, you can't drive there.
So that's my
So never
favorite
mind.
line in this entire movie. It changes everything for me because knowing that she saved that much money, and they were still only going to let her go on a bus. Wild.
So eventually he leaves juicy fruit, juju fruit or whatever, and
Yes.
she's
Well,
like,
first he leaves her is like a Chanel bag and then a Bulgari something.
Yes.
I don't even remember
He's trying to
what that was.
buy her affection.
he's
And
like, get
Zola's
whatever Anastasia Steele, whatever her name is, and her bimbots. Because he has a lot of derogatory terms for women that he'd be throwing out.
uh-huh. And yet we're still supposed to be rooting for him to not be a beast. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you're not winning my affection as an audience member.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also just didn't like that part also threw me because I was just assuming to an extent that like he didn't have access to money. Like, because the way that he's living in squalor in this in this townhouse, right? Like, and it seemed like it was like, oh, his dad's like paying the rent, paying the utilities, like providing enough money for food, but he like pretty much otherwise, like he doesn't have access to all that much. But then all of a sudden he's
No.
like
He
dropping
still has the
thousands of
American
dollars.
Express.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, why don't you have like, a virtual reality system in this place? Like, I'm just like, come on,
Yeah.
let's smart house this townhouse.
And that could be like your magical objects that do
Yeah.
your be our guest.
Oh,
Yeah.
love.
So yeah, Lindy is eventually like, oh, and she's like, why are you just trying to leave? He's like, oh, I didn't want to creep you out. She's like, so you were wearing a ski mask.
Yeah, again, not working, sir.
But eventually she leaves the room to bond with NPH, who calls her a guy's girl.
And he makes a
Hmm.
joke about sexually assaulting.
Oh, that like the kidnapping, something that like a joke about it being a kidnapping situation.
Yes. And I'm like, this is the 100th opportunity for you to be calling the cops.
Yeah. When I was a teenager though,
Too smart,
I
but she's
do
supposed to be.
people would say things to you that in hindsight as an adult you're like, that's insane. Why would you say that to a
Well,
teenager? But like you
yeah.
do just kind of like when you're a teenager, people say that and you're just like,
That's
okay.
true.
And in hindsight, you're like, I wouldn't say that to a teenager. That's
That's
weird.
true. And he does
Yeah.
the cheesy rewind it back thing.
Oh
Oh, let's
yeah.
re and I'm like, go away.
Yeah. But the Beast hears that, or he mentions because the Beast is gonna build a greenhouse, and NPH is like, gross.
And she
What?
says, rad.
Rad.
Because
A
it's
greenhouse,
1996.
rad. I also
Be
was like, I was wondering when, like, the rose thing, like the
Mm.
white roses mean I'm worthy. I was like, when are roses going to come back? Like, we've got what's going to happen? And then he starts building the greenhouse.
Mhm.
Which, isn't just something he has. He just has to build it. That is a good
Hmm.
uh form of love
With
bombing.
windows he finds from all over the city.
Is that they say that?
Well, no, but like, where did he get all those windows from?
Oh yeah. That'd be
Uh,
funny. He's just running around stealing people's windows.
I I just it feels weird that he has to build it. It's like, why isn't there just a dilapidated greenhouse that he like fixes up? Because to me, I'm like, this man has the smoothest hands, no calluses. Sorry, this boy.
Yeah,
And it's just like, no. What do you mean he has carpentry skills? What do you mean he can read a book to learn
true.
carpentry
Yeah,
skills?
Yeah, he barely
I
No.
reads
know.
in his classes. Apparently, he hasn't been taking his classes.
Yeah, like when
No.
they have that weird scene where time is passing
Yeah,
by because they're doing
Hmm.
a really deep dive seminar on this small poem.
because he
Yeah.
Uh,
Googled poetry to impress girls,
Yep.
yeah.
and he
Uh,
wants to look smart in the lesson, but he didn't prepare. He hasn't done any work in years.
it's like,
Um,
What up? My
what?
name's Jared.
Also,
I'm 19 and never fucking learned how to read.
isn't
Exactly.
there a rooftop greenhouse scene in High School Musical with her and Troy?
Yes,
Yep,
they're
Because
like
that's immediately what I thought of.
because they have a rooftop garden at their high school. Yep,
in
Yeah,
Albuquerque. Yeah.
yep.
right.
They're a
Oh,
desert.
wait. Also, it was not until they were inside that greenhouse, and I think we got a really close up look at his face, that I realized that the tattoos above his brows said embrace suck.
Whoa, what?
Which is a
I did
kind of
not,
a
the whole
more
movie,
that's
the
kind of a more
whole
metal
movie, I didn't
statement.
realize it. The whole movie, I didn't realize it. And then they're sitting in the greenhouse, and like, I get like, and I was like, what are these weird hieroglyphics above his brows? And it says embrace suck.
Yeah,
That's such
because
a
it's like Arab. It's like an Arabic.
No, it's just like a weird, it's like a wingdings font of embrace suck.
Oh my God. I think it's supposed to look like Arabic because that's what I thought, but you're right. It
Mm.
does. It just
Yeah.
says embrace suck, but it looks like an Arabic font.
Hmm.
That's again offending people of all cultures.
It's embrace
I,
suck would be kind of like a metal, like I've been through shit. You just gotta learn to embrace it. I do think this movie has a strange equivalency of suck with like looking bad or like life
hmm.
sucking. And it's like there's like a
Yes.
lot of leaps because I just feel like suck isn't usually like a term for ugly. It's just a term for like this is
It's
annoying.
more about your personality. That's how I would say, like, oh, that person sucks. It's not because I think they're ugly, it's because I think
Yeah,
their personality is ugly.
yeah,
Right.
That's
yeah.
that blew my fucking mind, Tori. I'm because here I was like, what are
Hannah's
these
in her grave
random
still.
Arabic text tattoos
No,
on his face?
same. Me
And
the
you
entire
looked.
movie. Wow.
Uh,
And then I kept being like, it's right there. Like she would have to see that it says embrace suck on his fort. And she's staring at his face.
And it's funny, she never asked, like, okay, like, I'm not gonna talk about the scars, but like, what about these tattoos? Because tattoos are
our
usually things you
choice.
choose. So why would
Right.
she not be like, well, I can get to know him by being like, so what's up with these eyebrow tattoos? You know?
Common convo topic.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's up
we
with your arm tattoo? It would look different 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm
It just
sitting
lit up
here
like a
reading
Christmas
this
tree.
poem. You have it out, and I'm watching your tattoo change in front of me as time passes, as we sat here for 3 months reading this single
Yeah.
poem. You
so
know,
they're falling in love. We
are
get, I don't know. We get like Zola, we get the fact that she has two children who are like 10 and 9 or
I no, I
something.
think one of them's like a teenager,
Yeah.
but she left when that kid was still a kid. Then the other one basically was, she says, like half that kid's life
Yeah.
hasn't had me at home,
Yeah.
And so he's like, you abandoned them. And she's like, it's more complicated. Like, they can't get green cards. And then, so we get that that's her need. And then we get NPH hates being blind. And so he goes to Mary Kate Olsen and is like, fix it for them. And she's like, okay, well, you sort of care about other people. So I guess I'll say if you break the curse, I'll also help them. Which is supposed to be kind of his save the cat, like
See, that's what I
redemption.
thought was his save the
which
cat.
which is interesting because the Save the Cat is supposed to happen in Act One.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that's great story structure. The other thing is also like it's giving Mr. Beast, Mr. Beastly, where
Oh,
Mr. Beast was like, I cured all these blind people or all these deaf people. That's what it was giving me. I was like, okay.
Mr. Beastly.
Well, yeah, I think the thing specifically, clearly Zola did want her children. The thing about MPH is I'm like, well, you don't, maybe he wants to remain blind.
Well, he says
Like,
being blind is living in hell or something
oh,
like
he
that.
does. Okay.
Yeah. But
I guess I
it's
just overlooked that. And I was just like, bold of you to assume that he doesn't want to remain blind.
because
Like
Yeah,
maybe he's in acceptance of his blindness.
you're looking
because
at real life, and like in real life, that would be an insane thing to assume that like that about a blind person or a deaf person, or
Right.
like they have their own like cultures that they are a part of that they value, like so it's like
that's why I don't understand because I got the not the vibe that he like necessarily like hates being blind. It's more that he's just like sassy. And like I didn't get the vibe that like he literally hated his existence because I thought
Yeah.
that was
He
something
seemed
that
to be
was
having a
supposed to be,
good time. He was playing darts.
and
yeah.
he's like
A
I will.
difference between him and Hunter is that like he has accepted and embraced, even if he does have like, this sort of like sassy personality, but he's not seeking a remedy or a cure. I thought that
Right.
was, but
He
it's,
recognizes that his life didn't end when he became blind.
Yeah,
Like
he
that,
yeah,
can
I think,
wear a nice tie because even though he can't see it, like
yeah,
he has pride in his appearance, which is
right.
supposed to
And
be
he
a
has a
lesson for
bedazzled
Kyle.
cane.
and
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of the NPH stuff is actually a reflection of uh Hunter because talking about the tie, that scene, he says something like, "Oh, I know what you're thinking, like Blindy still has style." Like he's like kind of like talking for Hunter.
Mhm.
He's sort of being sarcastic about it. So, I mean, I think it's that character is
When he
very
was
unclear
silly
to me.
pouring the water. That
Yeah,
for,
it's like he's trying to get this a rise out of him.
Hmm.
So I I get what you're saying, but I did kind of read it as he's just assuming that this guy hates being blind and he wants to try to cure him. Like I just thought it was like ableist assumption. So, but maybe I don't know. This movie confounding.
Eventually, he's like, I'm running out of time. Well, okay, first they go to the zoo where his dad told him he was abandoned by his mother. after
Right.
he
And
got
the
all the
mother
toy and
elephant.
candy, and he watched the mother
Uh-huh.
elephant mourning her children. Mommy issues will remain unresolved. And they like stare blankly ahead at the
Which
screen.
is another reason why I do not understand why he was not like nice to Zola, because she was
I
probably
know.
a mom to him.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if he became a teenager where he was like, I hate you, it's like that I understand. Like that's a progression of being a teenager that happens sometimes. But it's like the fact that he was like not nice to her,
Because
I don't
I
know.
she was
know.
like, "You got to be the man I know you to be," and it's like, "What?" Because I'm only
Where
seeing to
are
be a
you?
dick to
Who are you
you.
What a
talking
piece of
to?
shit, because his dad is one.
Yeah, it like no, makes no sense.
Yeah. So this poor, yeah. So they're just watching the zoo and talking about like imagine love like that as they watch this video. And so he has issues. Uh, but they're running out of time. The Machu Picchu trip is coming, and they're like,
The
That
bus
bus
is
is about
leaving.
to leave.
and they're
Maybe
like,
it's
see,
Miss Frazzle driving.
Miss Frizzle, yeah.
Miss Frizzle, yeah.
And they're like, maybe you have a lake house or a cottage to take her to that Daddy got. He's like, no, Daddy don't got. And he's like, wait, the lake house, the lake cottage, this mansion that I forgot we have. Dad
This
can't be
mansion in
here
Hudson
for more than
Valley.
45 minutes because he has bad reception
I am also really confused as to how this guy has so much money
as a news anchor.
as a news anchor. Like,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
like,
they act like they're old money. And having that mansion in Hudson Valley, you're old money. But an old
Yeah,
money person would not be a news anchor. Like, why not just make him like a
no.
CEO?
yeah. Because
Yeah.
especially the after credits scene is giving CEO.
Well, yeah.
There's an
And they're like,
after credit scene.
oh, yeah. Oh,
I don't even,
yeah.
you know what? I didn't even get to the credits. I stopped as soon as I saw the Abampon and I was like, I'm done. I have finished
Oh,
this film.
you
You said au
you
revoir.
missed a
I said au
montage.
revoir.
You missed the
You missed
montage.
You missed a photo montage, and then you missed
Oh,
a post-credit scene
where
where
Thanos
Mary Kay
comes.
Olsen continues her reign of terror on Bane Men.
Thanos.
Yeah. Uh,
Love. Wow.
so there also at some point we get the conversation because he sees that she keeps the picture of her and him up that like
Right, at all times.
yeah, that she kind of liked him. He's like, "Oh." So they go to this lake house. They like frolic about. She ignores the text that Victor is out of jail, but
Right.
eventually she gets the text
That her
that
father OD'd. The way that she says OD'd kills me. She's like, my father OD'd.
Yeah.
Very
Her
musical
breath
theater
acting.
voice. Yeah.
Her breath acting.
Also, I'm just thinking, is this supposed to be the equivalent of like the ballroom scene? And why couldn't he have like snuck into prom and tried to have no one notice him so we could have had that scene? You
Right,
Right.
know?
right. Or
Mhm.
Uh
like had his own prom because she
yeah,
was like upset that she was missing prom. And so
yeah.
he was like,
Yeah.
we're gonna do our own prom.
But she doesn't care
Yeah.
about prom. She's a guy's girl.
Right,
She
right, right,
loves
right,
the
right. I
game
forgot. Right.
and
Ugh.
getting Totinos for her
You
hungry
know what?
guys. Yeah.
You can like the game and you can also like wanting to go to prom, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
But not in
Multitudes.
this futuristic universe.
No, not in the Green Party's world. So she's going to the train and he gives her these love letters he wrote for her about
Right.
how he's in love because she said she loves sappy love letters. And so she's like, "You're such a good friend." Gets
Before
up,
this.
yeah,
Well,
gets on the
before
bu
she starts reading
she
them.
gets and then she's like, "I'm gonna read the letters." And he's like, "No, don't read it, don't read it." And so then he ghosts her.
All because before she reads these letters and realizes how he feels about her, she calls him a good friend.
Right.
They
And
spent
instead of just like having a conversation and being a good friend, checking up on his friend whose father just OD'd, he's in the hospital. You don't know his condition. Oh, okay, he's okay. Great. Go
you didn't know
and
that.
comfort her. She's still upset about this. And she's calling you because she wants to talk to you about the letters, all because of his fucking pride. It's like, I'm
You learn
sorry,
nothing.
not to get to the spoilers of this movie, but he does not earn his ending. He should stay ugly forever.
Yes.
Not to victim blame her, but the line though, where she's like, "Where have you been?" I'm like, he's been prisoner in the same townhouse for months. Like, you knew where to
Where
find him if you
you
needed to have
also
a
were there.
conversation.
Absolutely. All you have to do is show up and knock on the door. And they didn't even give her
He's
that
there. He's
scene.
in the townhouse.
He's absolutely there. He's probably in your old bedroom. But yeah, no, like, and he, at this point, she still only knows him as this random dude hunter.
Yeah.
Right.
So also I just can't get over. Okay. Well, this will come we'll talk about the alternate ending in a second. Because there was an alternate ending.
I
Oh,
can't.
good.
Okay.
Uh
Is it on
so
YouTube?
I think it's in the Wii game. Uh,
Oh.
You have to
yeah.
beat the entire Wii game to get there? Oh God.
Yeah. So eventually they're like, how are you gonna know how she feels about the letters if you don't respond to her? Classic,
Uh,
basic. Yeah. So he runs up to confess feelings. He
in the
While
middle
shows
of
she's
high
up.
waiting for the
school.
bus to
While
Machu
she's
She's,
the
Picchu.
Machu Picchu bus.
she says, "Where have you been?" They kiss. Did she say, "I love you"?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
Yes.
running to catch the bus, and she turns around. She's like, "Hunter, I love you."
Um,
Vanessa, are you with us in the room?
because she's doing this also like deep pitched voice, though this like vocal fry, like
Yeah,
I'm world weary. I love romance letters. I'm a Trump supporter. Yeah.
Yeah.
she speaks from her molars. Like, there's a lot of molar in the way that she talks.
Yeah.
And eventually, so she goes off the bus, and then she like runs back to get him, but he's transformed already.
Back
Yeah, she's like,
into
"Zach, I don't have time for you."
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
Or
welcome
Kyle,
back from
whatever his name is.
rehab,
Zach
junkie."
Kyle. Yeah. She's like, oh, sorry, I'm
She's
looking for him. And he's like, you know the story? He doesn't say Beauty and the Beast, but he describes Beauty and the Beast in an awkward way.
yeah,
She's like, yeah, everyone knows that story. And I'm like, so Beauty and the Beast is a story in your universe. Like,
yeah.
and
And
then
so if that's the case, then you have reading material that you could read that NPH could introduce you to and be like, "Hey, maybe we should read this." And then you could maybe glean some lessons of what you're supposed to learn. Okay? So he's beautiful again, right?
and
She's not giving
he's
him the time of day.
she calls Hunter, his phone rings. Very Hillary Duff
And then she
Cinderella
like
story phone as they
they like
Yes.
identify
lock
him.
eyes. And
And
she's like, "I see you now."
And he's like,
yeah.
"It's me."
And it doesn't work the same way as those like big eyes in the animated Beauty and the Beast, where she looks at his eyes and she feels the hair and she's like, and in that one she saw him transform in front of
Literally,
her.
Yeah.
yes.
So
And
she
I think I would have preferred him literally transform in front of her because I feel like because the time in between there is a waste of time, but I
yeah.
also kind of didn't want this movie to be 90 minutes even though it was. It was the
So
longest 90 minutes of my life. The longest
Right.
89 minutes of my life.
yeah, because you
Yeah.
skipped the end credits scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kiss. Bon pain. Be our guest. After all, this is France, you know.
Yeah, literally.
And then we get a montage of them at Machu Picchu, seeing sights of the world.
Well, you're skipping over they're drinking Cokes. I don't know if you saw that they have little glass bottle Cokes in Brazil.
Love, love. Okay, so are we
It's like a
can we
photo
can we
montage. They're still.
talk first about did he actually achieve his goal of getting her to fall in love with him
For him,
as
not
for
for his
him?
look.
Yeah.
But
Now, I
she
don't know
does
if.
not know him. She fell in love with Hunter. She did not fall in love with him.
Right.
She fell in love with him under completely false pretenses, multiple times
Hmm.
over.
Well,
He did not meet his goal.
I think that's why they tried to introduce the like that she always had a crush on Kyle.
Kyle.
Right.
Because then it was like, oh, okay, like she always had a crush on Kyle, and that's why she fell in love with Hunter. because Hunter is Kyle. Like I think that was like the weird marriage they were trying to give us. But no, I honestly am like, I
Yeah,
also feel like he learned nothing from
No.
that because it was like, well,
absolutely.
she loved him when he was beautiful. Like, and then
And an asshole.
I like I almost wanted him to be mad that he became beautiful at the end because then like maybe she wouldn't love him. Like
Yes.
that would have been interesting. But instead
Yeah.
he was just like, "Oh my god, I'm hot." And now she's coming back out here and I get to be hot in front of her.
Yes. It's, I
Like
feel
I
like this
wish he
whole,
was like embarrassed by his beauty.
Yeah.
yes, I love that. I think that because it's like, oh, well, now she's gonna, but then it would be like, well, now she knows who I really am. That's the
There's
Yeah.
thing.
there's a deceit involved in this Beastly, whereas in
Two
Beauty and the
deceits.
Beast, there's a lot of deceit. Whereas in Beauty and the Beast, aside from the fact that, hey, if you don't love me, I'll be cursed, he's pretty straightforward about the situation, right? Like you live
Yeah.
here, this is your home now. Like
And
they
she
don't
like
know each
slowly
other.
uncovers that he used
Yeah.
to be a beautiful prince and then
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
learns the lore and she's like, "Oh, interesting."
That's kind of why I would have preferred if she would have been asking about his tattoos. Like, what if his dad comes on TV and he's like, saying shit and, he's kind of accidentally revealing who he
Mhm.
is, that like she knows who he is. Like she knows,
Yeah.
but she's for some weird reason accepting that she's at his house. But like she's like, oh, but he's different now. Like he's a person
She
now.
hated Kyle.
Yeah. Well,
Like it also would have made sense if she hated Kyle.
Yes, like that's why I
But
like
her
I
liking Kyle is like that's the part where it's just like, well, what did we learn here? Nothing.
nothing.
exactly. No one learned anything, and it would have made more sense. It would have actually been that like if she had figured out who he was and then still said I love you, that like
Mhm.
he would have reached his
Yeah.
goal and he could have been beautiful again, whatever. So that's why I'm just like
Well, I think
he could have been
it's
confused. He's like, "Wait, why am I beautiful? Like I missed my deadline, you know?"
Right.
Beauty and the Beast does require, I think, Beauty being our POV character, which I also learned when I made Beast the POV character in that fan fiction. He was one of a POV character, and eventually I had to
I
throw
gotta
some of
read this fan
her.
fiction.
The novel length, baby. But it's like I was as like because I started writing it in college, dropped it, and then came back to it later in life. And like was like, how do I make sense of some of what I introduced? I was like, oh, like he's not a great POV character because he comes across as such an asshole, and like you need to see him through Belle's eyes. And so I
Yeah.
think this of
Mm,
all the versions is the most beast centric.
Yeah.
And so because she is such like a non-entity, it's just like kind of like a boring rom-com. Like he could be Adam Sandler and she's like Cameron Diaz for all, like
Yeah.
she's just like the hot girl to be won. And Jasmine wouldn't like that. Uh, so there is an alter. Okay, first there's the end credit scene, Mary-Kate
Okay.
Olsen. So first the dad is like, they're like, your new intern's here. He's like, no fatties, right? No fatties or uggos. That's my rule. And his female assistant is like,
Wait,
yep, yeah, that's the rule.
his dad?
Yes.
his dad, he's
Peter
sitting in like
Krause.
a
Got it.
massive glass office as if he is Rupert Murdoch. Like he's not just
He's
a
not
news
just,
anchor,
uh-huh.
he's the head of the
He's
network.
not
Like
just Sean
that's
Hannity, he is also Rupert
Yeah, I
Murdoch.
was gonna say he's
Yeah.
yeah.
that. What's that guy? The guy with the annoying voice.
Tucker Carlson's no
Tucker
longer on
Carlson.
Friday,
Yeah.
so it doesn't, we have to talk about Hannity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
no,
Hannity in this
he
one.
like that. I'm like, they're not giving anchors offices that big. Like they're
No.
truly,
In
truly
New
not. Not
York.
unless, yeah, no, no, not
I
at
mean,
all.
maybe Matt Lauer, but we know how that worked out. So
Right. Okay,
Maybe
I
he's
guess
supposed to
yeah,
be Matt Lauer.
maybe he's supposed to be
maybe,
a Matt Lauer.
maybe, but also I think the sheer amount of wealth still, again, I think you're right. The old money aspect that it's
Yeah.
giving is
And
just
why
throwing me
why
off.
isn't he just I know they're like news anchors have to be hot, but I'm like this would make sense because also the Beast is supposed to be aristocratic, like just make him old money.
Yeah, it didn't, or
Yeah.
like his dad's a senator or something.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just, yeah,
He
it
has
didn't
a
make any
British
sense.
accent and
Oh,
his dad's a duke.
oh my God. Well, also, I think it would make sense if he was like some sort of like politician, why his son would need to be hidden away.
why he need to
Right.
look good.
why he needs to look good, why he's trying to get into politics and leadership and emulating what his dad does. I think that would have been
Yeah.
a really solid foundation for this character and why he is the
Hmm.
way he is. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's talk
But
about
instead
Mary
they
Kate
went with
Olsen.
news anchor.
Well,
Yeah, so
we just see her heels come in, right? Do
yeah,
we even see her?
we see her walk. You see her from behind, I think.
Yeah. She's gonna
I
curse the
actually,
dad.
yeah, but now the dad's going to be cursed. He's going to be the next
He's gonna
beastly.
be a frog.
And now he has to get his son to tell him that he loves him.
Yeah.
You have to win your son's love. Good luck.
Yeah, he has Vanessa now. He doesn't need you. So that is beastly. There was an alternate ending
And
where
it was.
she was like, I realized I didn't want to see the wonders of the world if I didn't see them with you or something. So she goes after him, and then
Mm.
Victor is like the drug lord is back. He escapes and like he is gonna shoot Lindy, but he
Oh.
steps in
Prison
and
break.
gets shot. And then so
Well,
he
that's closer to Beauty and the Beast. Doesn't he get
yeah.
like hit with an arrow or something?
Yeah, so she cries a tear and like it's like it looks kind of hokey, I guess, but it's like that heals him. It's like a more traditional like he's dying, she says I love you and saves him. I think it was edited weird, at least that's what this is. I my source is the Jenny Nicholson video. I didn't watch the alternate ending myself. That was enough
I'm
beastly
going to
content for
after this.
me. And so it's like it was edited weird, so she was like maybe they just thought it was edited weird and made a new like made a bet like a simpler ending, like a more rom-com ending.
Yeah, very rom-com
Mm,
ending.
Uh, but yeah, that's how it was supposed to go.
interesting.
Hmm. I think I
Yeah.
would have preferred an alternate ending kind of like that. I think the tear thing I can see where it would be
Yeah.
hokey, but I think that like if he it would be interesting if he was literally dying and turned beautiful and then she realized who it was and then she was able to save him. So
Hmm.
then she would actually be able to like, okay, no, this is that horrible asshole from school who I did have a crush
Who
on
I
and
was in love with,
who
even
I
though
did have an
he
obsessive
showed no redeemable
photo
qualities.
background
Yeah.
on my laptop. Uh, and I do love him because of this experience.
Mhm.
I just something. Yeah, I think something
Yeah.
with that alternate ending could have worked better, especially like I think the angst level of the movie is not met by its ending.
Hmm.
And something like that has that level of angst,
Angst.
like the jumping in front of a bullet for her type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch a grenade
Right.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, it also just like it brings all of these loose plot points together because I'm like, well, Victor's now just in jail. Like Victor could get out of
yeah.
jail. His brother was still murdered. Is her dad going to prison? Like, there's so many.
There's
Yeah.
it's also
It
in beating the
so
Be
where so the conversation is going to be now that like she's going to be like, "Oh my God, you should meet my dad." And he's going to be like, yeah, because, or she's going to be like, "Okay, how did you know my dad?"
Yeah.
I helped him like, get rid of a
Cover up a
body
murder. Yeah.
and I blackmailed him to get you to stay at my house. Like how
that's
does that go over
crazy.
at Thanksgiving?
Which like
It
this
almost would have made more sense if like she saw like because I know she was there like she saw what happened with Victor
Witnessed.
and saw
yeah.
that and saw that her life was threatened and Alex Pettifer's character was like I know how to keep her safe and she was like that's insane who even are you like it would have made more sense if she was just part of that exchange
And
because
Yes.
she
then
could
we're
have
like
made the choice. She
Yes.
could have
right
been like, Okay, I'll go with you." He's been like, "I have this house, it's secret, blah blah." Like he could have
Yeah.
convinced her and she could have made the choice to be like, "Okay, yeah, like this is going to be safer for me than being here."
Because
A whole
in
bridge
right
is going to make a world of
yeah.
difference.
Because
or at
animated
that point they left for the lake
they left with
house
like cows.
Yes. And then it would have been like this castle, this actual like
Yeah.
castle. And again, if they don't
yeah
go to the lake house a lot, it could be dilapidated. Maybe
Yeah.
not dilapidated, but it could have been like under construction, like the
Dusty.
townhouse was.
or
Yeah.
had like all of the white sheets over
Yeah.
Yes, they
everything.
could have done that aesthetic. All right, guys, let's
And
rewrite
then
this
she
script.
pulls down one of the curtains and there's like a
The
family
picture of
portrait
him.
with the
Yeah.
mom.
Oh
And
my
he's
Yeah.
like,
God.
who's that
This movie,
woman?
Writes
believe it or
itself.
not, writes itself, even though it's already been written, produced, filmed, edited,
And
released
just
in
no.
theaters, now released on Vudu slash Fandango at home, where we did watch this film.
It is
So,
uh
yet
it
they didn't make any of those
none of
choices,
those choices.
even though it was
No.
loosely based on the book.
Animated Beauty and the Beast, Belle goes, and most of the stories, Belle goes into this eyes wide open, knows what she's getting into, is making her own choices. So there's no
Right.
like level of deception. There's no
Yep.
like, and so she knows what's going on. And compare that to like at the end of Sleeping Beauty, or like, does she know anything that happened? And that's Lindy, kind of, where you're like where
Yes.
like Aurora was an improv queen. She's like, I'm just going with kind of whatever's happening. And Lindy's that. She's like, let me just go with it. But that's not what we're expecting from Belle, who's usually like very like a, a master of her own fate. Like she promised to stay in the castle. When she doesn't like it, she leaves. And then
Yep.
she chooses to come back. And there's still a lot to unpack in that whole dynamic. But still, there is like, she has choices.
Autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Hmm.
beast has to learn to love and be loved in return. So he has to learn to love. And in order to love her, he has to be like, you're not someone I'm trying to keep prisoner. You need to go be with your dad.
Right. He has to
Yeah.
let her go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
just
that
think
has to we have to feel the emotion of that, the risk he's taking, and you don't feel that in this. You just feel that he's being friend zoned.
yes.
Right. Yeah.
And her she
Hmm.
doesn't really there's not a lot of tenderness with her and her dad.
No.
Even though
No.
she's a parentified child, like animated Belle,
Hmm.
you're like, oh, she's like, thank you for seeing how much he needs me.
Yeah. It also, I'm like, why, like the whole drug, her dad being a drug addict thing, I'm like, we could have come up with many other options for why. Like, it could have just been like her dad can't pay the rent. Like, like, we did not need
Yeah.
to go as far as to make him addicted to drugs. Like, it could have been that he can't pay the rent and like, they're going to get kicked out of their house. And if that happens, like, she's going to get taken into foster care. Like, it could
Yeah.
have been like, we could have come up with something that doesn't like, both villainize addiction and also like make her dad like kind of you're sort of just like what your dad is now he's murdered someone like
And
Yeah.
magic isn't gonna fix that addiction. Like it fixes, we forgot to mention,
right
it fixes NPH's blindness,
right
and Zola gets green cards for her children.
right and one could argue why didn't he also ask for something for Vanessa like
She
why
gets
didn't he
him.
ask like give give her
Cure
Machu Picchu
Those
give her
abs are the
Machu
prize.
Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
yeah
Get
like
her a
Uh,
plane ticket
cure
to
her dad's
Machu Picchu.
addiction
Yeah.
cure
Like,
yeah.
AIDS because she seems to care about that as
yeah,
well.
exactly. Yeah. This movie is just a complete conundrum.
It's the idea of modernized Beauty and the Beast. Sounds good on paper, harder to pull off than it seems, and then executed poorly.
And
That's just
it,
basically like
Yeah,
yes.
they didn't really think too deeply about any of the choices made. Because
Yeah.
like with Cinderella, when you Hilary Duff it or Selena Gomez it or whatever, it's you're just kind of choosing new set pieces. Like it kind of like it's a lot easier. Beauty and the Beast as a story has a lot more things to like shuffle to make
right,
happen. And like the hardest modern thing with a modern Cinderella is why does he not recognize her?
Mm.
And like has to
right,
identify her. And that there's a lot more you can like there's masks, there's this. Whereas like Beauty and the Beast, there's like, how is this curse working? How is this? It's like when they tried to do Snow White with Amanda Bynes and like she had a poisoned MacBook and like
don't talk to me about that movie. Do not talk to me about that. That's
Uh-huh.
that's a firm boundary that I have is that we don't discuss Sydney White in my presence ever again.
Wow, that brings back a lot of memory. I don't think I ever finished that movie.
Yeah, it's we're not talking about it. That's a firm boundary. So
That's a
Yeah.
firm boundary. We can talk about House Bunny, which is also a Snow White uh adaptation.
oh, in a way, yeah. I guess I never thought about it that way. Yeah. Um, okay. I guess this is where we ask, do we root for our protagonist and do we ship
No.
the main couple?
No.
No, no. It's
I
a
don't
no
even
from
want to
me,
ship
babe.
her to Peru. Like, I don't
Not
think
at all.
she's earned Machu Picchu either because she is just such a nothing character. It's also not her fault, but also it's like, yeah, I think what I'm most upset by is that like there are so many other choices they could have made for this story that could have just at least worked better and been less confusing. And
Yeah.
and again, like there's so many levels to deceit here that I'm like, he does not meet his goal. So you're lying to me, first of all. You're setting up rules and then you're lying to me. You're gaslighting me. Um, yeah, I just this movie sucks. I will not embrace the suck.
Yeah, I'll just say I watched this movie with my mom because my mom is currently staying with me. And at the end of the movie, I was like, so, like, what'd you think? And there's a really, really long pause. And then she says, the only one I thought was good was Ashley Olsen. And that really,
That
that sums
sums
it
it
up.
up.
Because she wasn't even in the movie.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, not my fantasy. I don't want to be turned into an ugly monster. I don't want to have to date someone who's turned into an ugly monster. I don't want to be kidnapped. I don't. The movie's bad. And it,
I don't want to go to Machu Picchu.
tourists are destroying that monument.
Yeah, I don't.
And why can't Belle be our POV? Because in Twilight and all the other supernatural romances, we have our normie lead, our
Yeah.
window into the
Right.
world. And yeah, I think this movie really suffers from its title character, because we're in his head and we're like, hate that.
It's a thing that just does not work because he's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
in any way an every man, whereas you could make her an every girl just the way like Bella could
Bella's in
be.
every girl. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like this guy has none of that. And so it's like we have nothing to attach to. Like we're hopefully not horrible, vicious people who accost everyone that we see.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
It's just like
I walk
I
into
have
work. I'm like,
no
embrace the
empathy
suck.
for
Yeah,
this
you've never met
guy.
me in real life. You only know me in this context.
Yeah. Your facade is being really nice to Cullen, but in real life, you're like, Cullen, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
ugly and
that's
you
exactly.
don't matter. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
our dynamic. That's how I walk into work every day. That's how I greet my team.
Love that.
Yeah.
No
Uh,
more fatties, no more uggos.
Yeah.
Get out of
Fatties
here.
to the back. That's how I start every day, every team meeting.
that's how we space plan the
Oh God.
so
Someone's
yeah,
gonna send this to HR.
we are for legal purposes. This is humor. This is
Yeah.
comedy. We are comedians,
Yeah.
as the French would say. So that is beastly. We saw it. We
And thank
witnessed
God it
it.
is.
And thank God. And up next, okay, this is the next recording we have scheduled. So I will
It'll
announce
probably
it.
be the next one to release.
We're talking vampires. We're talking The Invitation. Talking
Hmm.
another creepy woman in a castle movie.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a spooky turn. Los Angeles, where I live, where Tori lives, has gone through a lot recently. The city has been on fire. Lots of people have lost their homes, evacuated, and even though as those fires died down, there's been so much support in the city, donation, volunteering, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you have the ability or feel empowered, encouraged to, please support local charities like Pasadena Humane Society, World Central Kitchen, organizations that are helping communities impacted by the fire. And there's so many. Uh, like I did stuff at the Flint Ridge Center. There's so many great places. So please support, because with climate change, things are happening. But maybe we'll put some links of some places down below, or at least some information. Um, but on the lighter note, Hannah, where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram at Not My Fantasy Pod.
Oh, no
At
longer
the
TikTok.
moment of recording, there is no more TikTok. We are not on any other those apps. Perhaps maybe we'll just switch to Reels and keep it all
Hmm.
centralized on YouTube. Cullen grimaced. Um, but that's not my decision. I'm not head of the social media department at Not My Fantasy Enterprises.
Yeah.
So that will be up to that executive. But again, Instagram at On My Fantasy Pod. That's sort of our central hub
Mhm.
for social media at the moment. And then, yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, hi, hello, you can
Smash that like button.
smash like button, hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime that we drop a new video episode. If you're on iTunes, Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Leave us a little comment. Tell us why you love the pod. And yeah, I guess, do you remember this movie? Comment below. Do
Yeah.
you remember the plot? Anything that you can conjure from your heart about this film, whether it be, Vanessa Hudgens related or Alex Pettifer's abs related, or if you want to talk about the movie I Am Number 4.
Or his domestic violence accusations.
Oh.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's
why we haven't seen Alex Pettifer in years, because several years later in his relationship with Diana Agron, he did stalk her, and he got into a very violent
that's
altercation with Sebastian Stan, because Sebastian Stan like stepped in to defend Diana Agron, and he had to be ordered to not appear at any award shows where Diana Agron went. And that's the
wow.
crossover between this and the Glee universe.
And we totally planned that
Yeah, that's
crossover.
I wanted to get us there.
Yeah. Me too.
Wild. Now that you're saying that, I do remember hearing about that.
Yep. That's why he sort of like was hottie of the month and then
Gone.
gone. And
Well,
that's how
good
we should treat
riddance.
men.
Yeah.
That
Good
is how we
riddance.
should treat them.
Discard them.
Yeah.
Truly beastly
Abusers,
behavior. Yeah.
absolutely. Discard
Yeah.
the abusers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Tori, thank you again for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks so
Thank
much for
you.
having me.
This is a
You can find
blast.
me on Red Note. Ni hao ma.
Oh, and with that,
And with that, you can find me on Instagram at Cullen Ever After, and you can find me on Blue Sky. I have a Blue Sky now. I'm
oh,
testing it
nice.
out.
Oh, maybe
Oh.
if that goes well, maybe we can get a blue sky for the
Yeah,
pod.
that's my plan. So I'm Cullen C.
Oh, that's
Where
simple.
yeah, you can find me. You can find me there. I wasn't a Twitter person, but maybe this will be my thing. See you. Happy Supernatural Romance Month. See you next week.
For the
The
invitation.
invitation. We're inviting you to the invitation.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.